So he flies up and he'll just he's sleeping right now in the middle. Can you see him?
Oh yeah, cool.
That's his home. This is and that door never closes and he never flies out.
Cool.
So this is his little home.
That's a cool perch for him.
Yeah, and they live for they can live up to like 20, 25 years.
And how long have you had him?
I've had him. He's not even a year old yet. I can't remember exactly when he was born.
Cool.
So why have that vision stopped? What's going on there? Oh, I've presented myself.
No, I'm presenting you.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay, so that's all right then. If I back up a little bit.
Yeah, you're all good. I just wanted, because when you were showing the bird, half the time the camera was kicking over to me. We're live, by the way.
What about the hangers?
The bird perch. The bird perch. The artificial branches. No, they're good. Everything's good. Cool. We're live, by the way. Before you tell me, you were going to tell me about, so there's David Chan, cool dude over there. Lindsay, everybody knows. Oh, let me see. I wouldn't be surprised if now the video started playing like it always does, by the way.
Fair enough.
So what I'm going to do quickly, because I have some people in South America watching, I'm going to explain about the sun tracking. Okay.
Cool.
We have this. It has a compass. Okay.
I want one.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're really cool. They're only like £8, you know.
Amazing.
£9 maybe. It's got latitude here, okay? You're supposed to lift this up. You don't have to, by the way. You don't have to lift this up to match your latitude, okay? I'm at 53 degrees here. It only goes to 50, so you can't flatten it anymore, okay? So leave it flat if you want, or raise it to your latitude. It doesn't matter. Here are the latitudes, okay? With this being 50 and that being, well, you can see, okay? Anyway, what you're supposed to do is put this flat on a surface, a book, so a bookcase if you've not got a somewhere even, or if you're doing it from indoors, a windowsill should be nice and flat and level. Make sure it's level so that your compass will be free to move properly and the shadow will fall properly. What you do is you orient it to the north with the gnomon. This is the gnomon with the gnomon pointing to the north. When you get to solar noon, you have here 12 o'clock. When your shadow reaches the point between these two small protrusions, that's your solar noon, okay? So you line this up to the north if you're in the north. If you're in the south, if you're south of the equator, you line it to the south. So you point the gnomon to the south, you point it along your south needle, so away from the north, and when it gets to the point between these two, that's your solar noon. And that's what we need for the sun tracking. I'm going to link in this video, whilst Lindsay explains what it's going to tell us. I'm going to try, without messing up, to link in the description a protractor that Dr. Zach has made for people to print out. Now, this is important. You need to print the protractor out. Basically, what you'll find is a link to a URL page. You go to that URL. That URL asks you if you want to download the thing. You click download. It gives you various different options, sign up and stuff like that. You don't need to. Just click download. You'll download a page that Dr. Zach has made up specifically for the sun tracking. It has a protractor with a variety of different extra elements. Those extra elements are the degrees split into centimeters. Print that out on A4 setting, okay? If you want to make sure that your printer is printing at an A4 setting properly, use a ruler and make sure that every centimeter that's marked on the protractor is an actual centimeter. If it's slightly smaller or slightly larger, you'll get a false reading. So just make sure that the centimeters are an actual centimeter according to your ruler. And that's it. You will also need a compass, Dr. Zach's protractor, and the 5 centimeter nail. The nail you will place on its head, pointing up. So make sure there's no children around, obviously, and use it outdoor. You're only going to use it for the solar noon or whatever reading you're doing, and then you're going to remove it. Please don't leave it outdoors. Best thing to do is just stick a little bit of glue or something. Okay, not glue tight, because that might just, change your orientation slightly. Just put it on with some glue and stick it to the very center of the protractor. And that's it. You're ready to go. When it gets to solar noon, you'll see where the shadow is. Mark the shadow with a pencil or a pen immediately. And that's your reading. That's the reading that we want. Okay. So you can give us the reading by looking at the degrees and telling us what degree it's at, or you can tell us where it falls within the centimeters. It's marked that out in centimeters as well. So that's it. 5-inch nail. If you get one with a broad head, better. Compass, protractor, and if you want a sundial, then use a sundial too. You're going to line up your protractor north if you're in the north of the equator, and south if you're south of the equator. You're going to line it up with your compass. We want your reading to show the shadow as it's falling on the protractor, so obviously also the protractor, and also a compass next to it, and if possible but not absolutely necessary, a clock or any other time display. Okay, so what we want specifically is the shadow, and to make sure that it's lined to north properly, so that the Globelink debunkers can't say that you twisted it and you were pointing at it in some other direction. If it gives us readings that Globelinks are not expecting, which we will get readings that Globelinks are not expecting. And that's it, guys. If you're going to use one of these, make sure it's level.
Would taking a photo of it at that time be of any benefit?
No. It has to be. The ideal thing would be for everybody to, well, if we got 3 or 4 people to give us the time at 8 minutes past 12 UTC, okay? So a variety of people to tell us how their shadow was at that time. Obviously, it would only be one, if possible, that it would be at solar noon. This will help Dr. Zach triangulate the distance to the sun, the location to the sun, and establish where people are, latitude and longitude. But that's only if we get a group of people giving us a reading at the same time, simultaneously. If not, then tell us your solar noon, and that's what we want more than anything. And now, Lindsay, you were going to tell me, you passed me something about the White House.
Yeah, this is just because ever since I've been aware of all of the corruption that's going on with the government, I've been interested in, I suppose, the motion that's going on at the moment in America, because it seems to be controlling the direction of at least their own nation, you know, and there's been a bit of a battle going on with Trump becoming president, and there's an enormous amount of support for very rich people like Soros to fund discord and resistance against the election of Trump. And, you know, I've been hearing lots of people throughout, just people you bump into who aren't necessarily awake, and they just are repeating exactly what the mainstream media has been doing, which is slating Trump. Now, I'm not a defender or promoter of Trump, but what I'm interested in is trying to understand why he got into power and what his purpose is now that he's in power. Is he part of the deep matrix? Is he one of them, controlled? Or is he rogue? And even though he may have some form of influence or control, he's independent to a degree, and therefore decisions he's making and actions that he's done over the last 50 days that he was in power, he's been silenced by mainstream media, and they're ridiculing him everywhere. When you watch any news programs, which I very rarely watch these days, but when you do watch them, it's all about fear tactics, and it's all about anti-Trump. Nothing good is said about him. So I was a little bit curious about why it had to be created with such a degree of, you know, dissent against a president. And that largely, when I looked at it, I thought, well, okay, Trump has a message to tell. And because he's got a message to tell, which is trying to bring America back to understanding that their patriotism about America is really identifying them as a nation, as anybody who's a resident of the United Kingdom would feel patriotic towards England, towards Scotland, towards Wales, towards Ireland. There's a sense of who you are as a nation.
Wait, I have to say this for the non-Northern Irish, because I can just imagine some. Oh, sorry, I'm causing echo. Dagnabbit. I can imagine some people in Ireland saying, "Not us, the Northern Irish." But sorry, go on. You were saying.
Anyway, my point is really that I left Australia with the so-called Aussie mindset that, you know, even though we're a naive young country, we've got a lot of character, a lot of energy, and this is young, youthful energy, which is trying to develop a sense of identity. And with this heavy influence of Americanism, if you like, over the last 50 or 60 years, you could probably argue that Australians have, as a culture, have developed a very much an American ideal. And their separation from identity from them and the American way is really their Australian identity, which is connected to Europe, which is second generation immigrants that have come over post Second World War and have also migrated over a period of time. So you've got this Asian influence now imposing in Australia. So you've got these segments of different influences coming in. It's very much a multicultural country. And as a result, there's a mirror image, or an attempt to, not exactly mirror image, but Australia became a bit of a frontier after America. It was founded 100 years after America was founded. And so basically Australia feels like it's to some degree learning lessons from the history of other nations that have gone through their troubles and torments and the empire and what the UK or the British have done to the rest of the world and all this sort of. These are lessons for a young nation to sort of to say, oh, we don't want to repeat that. But at the same time, we also have a yearning to feel collected or connected to something. And this is the colonialism. And so this is why when I think roughly about in the 90s somewhere, they did a referendum to see if Australia could gain their independence and become a sovereign nation. And the vote was no. We still wanted to become still part of the Commonwealth. There's a security blanket, if you like, even though it may be invisible or unconscious, it's still there. And along comes this so-called rogue who puts himself out there to the people, and he does it in a way that engages many of the people that probably wouldn't have voted or probably would have just not bothered to be aware of a particular opposition that was trying to become president. So Trump, to some degree, had to be a little bit outrageous in character. But in amongst the ridiculousness, if you like, of some of the things that Trump are or is, the character that he portrays, underlining that he's a threat to the agenda that America, over the last three, at least, presidents, have become entwined in this, agenda to destabilize America by influencing massive amounts of importation of all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life throughout the world.
They've been exporting, they've been making it incredibly easy for American companies to move abroad.
Exactly.
And incredibly easy for people from abroad to move into the US, where there are already less jobs because the big manufacturing jobs have left the US.
Exactly.
And some of the strategies that they've used in the inner cities have been really, really bad for the inner cities.
Yes.
So
go on. There was a document that I came across as I watched a video and a link to it, and I looked at it, and it was 50 things, laws or rules or agendas or executive orders that have been written, or not 50, but in the last 50 days, there are all of these changes that Trump has made. And the media have been turning around and saying that what's he done? He hasn't done anything. And it's all this hype up about his contact to Russia and whether or not he was colluding. And then there's this tapping of the phone or of the Trump tower and so forth. And all of this is what we call noise, distractions. It's noise and distractions taking away what the agenda of Trump is trying to do. And to some degree, if you have a notice of some of the things that he's trying to portray, he's trying to get back this patriotism of being America. What was it like to be America, and what was it like to have an American identity? And part of that identity was to have a middle class society that could function in industry. And so what he's done, in one of the first things he's done, is he's brought back a lot of car manufacturers, a lot of industry to enable more people to be employed. And he's made contact directly to these CEOs, if you like, and changed some of the laws and regulations, which has turned around and basically said, look, if you don't bring your manufacturing back into the US, then the import tax is going going to cost you this much. So it's only in your interest to actually bring your manufacturing back in. And so a lot of industries are now doing exactly that. And so the point is that these things are not being recognized by mainstream because they still want to portray Trump as a joke, somebody to laugh at, somebody to ridicule.
Let me point something out, though, for people who are not American who are watching. I grew up in, same as David there and Lindsay, we grew up with Baywatch. You know, Baywatch was the kind of shift from the America of Starsky and Hutch, because our relationship with America has been through television and movies. The America of not so long ago was the America that used to be seen as the country that comes to the rescue. That's how it was seen in the Second World War. That's how it was seen by the Spanish. Even though the Spanish were at the time under a fascist dictatorship, it was still in very good relationships with America. The American soldiers used to come, they used to bring chocolates, cigarettes, all these things. They were very generous. Right now, still to this day, you can buy a Zippo lighter here in the UK, pay 20, 30 quid, whatever. At some point it break. They have a lifetime guarantee. You can send it to Zippo with your return address, and a few weeks later, you'll get your Zippo fixed for free. Okay? These things don't generally happen. I don't know any British company that you buy something from them, it breaks, and you don't need to send a receipt, a guarantee. No, just the fact that it was made by Zippo, they'll fix it for you, and they send it to you with a new mechanism too. Okay? So this is the old America, the America that used to have integrity, you know, the America that didn't used to have army all over the place. It didn't want to get involved in wars left, right, and center. And what Trump is doing is basically saying, we need to stop hemorrhaging money. We need to start first, stop hemorrhaging, and then build up from the inside. That's what he's doing. But the people who are more interested in that not happening, and let's call this what it is. When you bring a group of people of a different ethnic background to a country, that can be seen as multiculturalism. That's what we call it in the UK. It's like, wait a second. Multiculturalism is actually the extinguishing of all of those individual cultures. That's what multiculturalism is.
From the majority to the minority.
Yes, but the correct term for this is ethnic cleansing.
Absolutely.
That's what's happening around the world right now. And it's not for good reasons. It's not so that the enmities before rivaling nations get diminished. The enmities are there because of the political affiliations, not because the people just generally hate each other and that's it. There's always some reason why they hate each other, and those are the things for which diplomats get paid to, you know, assuage those lesions that have been there from centuries.
Well, Antonio, I can give you a quick example of a moment that I can remember quite clearly. When I lived in Melbourne, there was an area, I think it's Footscray, and it was the dominant immigrants that occupied that suburb were Vietnamese. Now, you had South and North Vietnam. Now, in Vietnam, they were basically enemies, and this was a cultural hatred, a civil war, if you like. Australia, during the immigration process, allowed both South and North to enter, and they all migrated to the same region in Melbourne, the same suburb. And over a period of time, next thing you know, you had these little wars going on, and it was big stories about it. It was, you know, that journalists did research on it and discovered that, you know, these little, and there were people that were controlling all of the immigrants as they entered into the towns. They were being subjected to control, and money had to be paid out and all sorts of stuff. So killings, drug running, all sorts of activity would go on, and muggings and sort of destroying other people's properties, all that sort of stuff. You know, fear, threat on the streets. And it became a little hot zone. Mm-hmm. And it became a hot zone for nearly 20 years, 30 years. I don't know today if it still exists in that format or if it's all cleaned up and changed. But when you talk to some of these people, they have a history behind them. And there's a reason why they have a bitterness towards another, the South or the North or whatever. And to carry that through to their children and then eradicate their children who are now Australian to hate your neighbour because they came from a different region of Vietnam than you did, that sort of thing. So this goes on throughout all the world when you have these issues. It's okay if you've got that sort of limitation, but, you know, my my view of what we call the subversion of a culture in America, when you do all of these massive import without the resources to fund it all, they become dependent and codependent on each other, and it destabilizes not only the economy but the culture of that nation. It smothers it, it clouds it, it distorts it, and all of a sudden that generation that are coming in are witnessing this. They don't have the identity, that patriotism identity of the US that their parents did, and they can't see how their parents used to have it.
And not only that, but if they go into an environment where the young who would have inherited that temperament are no longer inheriting it because the education system has spent 20 years educating every single student to, have this different attitude, then the new people come in and there isn't an established mentality. You don't eat with your elbows in, you don't walk on this side, you don't do these things. If all of those things have gone, then this is how things spiral into chaos. This is where the Clintons and the Bushes, that's where those people were driving it. So
exactly
what you're saying with Trump, I've thought the same thing. It's like, is this guy just a puppet so that people will engage with voting? Is this just a very clever tactic by the Illuminati? And this is a little bit of magical thinking. If you look at everything that you can, you're not going to see some meeting that went on somewhere where it was decided that in order to invigorate the whole democratic system, they would bring in this dude called Donald Trump and they would play him off as just a character. But, no, it sounds like maybe this world is not quite as controlled as we've been given the illusion. And this guy has got his own security. Remember that, people. He has his own security. He had it before he was president. And there's a lot of people in America who do still have the old American integrity, who have been sweating blood, thinking, my God, look at what these people are doing. And along comes this guy who's this industrialist, and they think, okay, let's give this guy some support. I don't know, but it seems to me more likely that that's what's happened than that some Illuminati has been playing cards saying, let's bring out the Trump card. Let's play that on the civilization of this earth. That sounds a bit far-fetched to me to think that that's what's happened. Yeah, and also, if that was what was happening, you probably have him being aired a lot more than he is being aired, and they would then give equal airplay to the antagonist. Instead, what we're having is only air from the antagonists, including the BBC in the UK. Only today, it was on the radio that apparently his spokesman has said that there was some kind of evidence or something that the British MI6 or whomever were eavesdropping on Trump and his negotiations or whatever before the election. And they had a spokesperson from GCHQ, whatever the hell that stands for, saying that these allegations are ridiculous. That was the statement. These allegations are ridiculous. Not these allegations are false.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, why didn't they just say these allegations are false, or these are false allegations, or there's been some miscommunication, we have not been wiretapped? Why didn't they make a statement like that, a categorical statement? Not. I don't recall if it was ridiculous or absurd. I think it was absurd. These allegations are absurd. Well,
they're true, but they're absurd.
Well, they could say it's absurd for one nation who spies on another nation to say that another nation is spying on it, because they all do it. WikiLeaks showed that. They all spy on each other all the time. Of course they do.
You have to be aware also that it was the CIA themselves that lost control of all of the technology to do the tapping, to do the interplay and interfere with systems of other people's computers, to access their cameras and their audio. All of this.
Do you know what I think they should do? Whenever any country wants to do that, and I genuinely think that they should do this, okay? If they want to say that country's been spying on us, yeah? And this is whether it be true or not. So I'm genuinely saying, if I was in a country running anything to do with security and stuff, I would send the press release saying, Kazakhstan has been spying on us. A Mossad agent told us. Because they're never going to mess with a Mossad agent. They're never going to go to Mossad and say, hey, did one of your agents say this? Because Mossad's going to say, go away. We wouldn't tell you the truth even if we knew it.
Well, I think the point really is that rather than they look. The way I see it, the front runners at the moment are Russia, China, America. Their interplay, their aggression and threats of aggression, all this sort of stuff. So if the mainstream media want to take on and start this rumor and start this sort of hint at and all this sort of push buttons, they understand by going to the communists, the old regime, the Russians, the sneaky Russians, all this sort of stuff, they'll spread that, and this is what they're spreading. They can't really use China, they can't really use Iran. I mean, they can imitate threats from them, but what they can really do is they can prop up and use Russia again as like, wow, look what Russia is doing, the evil Russians. And only 6 months before this, Obama had always, disliked Putin, and that was deliberate. This was positioning, power positioning, and also establishing a way to create this false threat, if you like, that they're trying to push onto Russia.
Let's remember something about Russia, okay? Russia has said no to Agenda 21. Russia has said no to Monsanto. Russia has said no to the New World Order. And this is publicly. This is Putin.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It said no to Agenda 21, to Monsanto, to the New World Order, no to the gay agenda. It's not illegal to be gay in Russia. It's illegal to propagandize, because eventually you're going to end up with a situation like they have in the US and Canada right now. So, no, we're not having any of these things. We have to remember, Putin lived through the Soviet era. I mean, not all of it, obviously, he's not that old, but he knows how a country is completely demoralized and destroyed through propaganda. And his team of people, not all of whom have all stayed, insular within Russia. Lots of them have studied abroad. They're like, no, we're not letting any of these things come in here and start messing around. In fact, we'll make laws to make it illegal for propaganda to propagandize stuff like sexuality. Why would you have to propagandize sexuality? If it's natural, it's natural.
Didn't I hear that they threw out McDonald's as well?
Say again?
Didn't I'm not sure if this is true, but I did hear that they threw out McDonald's as well because they heard about, unusual food being found in their ingredient.
That's a bit dark.
Yeah, I think, the reason why I mentioned it is because I'm receiving sort of daily updates about certain things from different true news, if you like, and it's leading towards helping to identify the shift that's occurring, and that shift is creating this awareness about really how close they were to changing that whole thing in their direction, which is this sort of antichrist kind of Luciferian ideology.
But it looks like it's not working.
It could be pausing, because there's also talk about what agenda Obama has at the moment, and the reason why he's still staying in Washington and he's still setting up camp there, and he's working with Hillary as well to make and shape changes to distort and corrupt Trump's presidency. And so there's the talk is that if he continues and he's succeeding by leaving little bombs along the way for Trump to trip up on during his presidency, to catch a moment to perhaps at some point down the line regain some kind of presidency again.
Do you know, Lindsay, what's going to happen? I'm going to predict the future right now.
Yeah, go for it.
Hillary Clinton will be going to prison, and so will Bill Clinton, and so will Obama. And it won't be on Trump-up charges. It will be charges of sedition and things like that.
Well,
like trying to set up. At
the moment. Yeah. I hope that's what happens, to be honest. That's a future that I would, revel in, to be honest. I think that would be the best for...
Well, if we think that Trump would be announcing, look, this is what I'm going to do to catch them, then we're a bit dim. He's not going to do that. If he's bought a company, he's not gone round saying, hey, I'm going to buy that company, because then everybody would buy shares in that company, and then he'd find it more difficult to buy it. He'll be doing things quietly. It's like, right, we're watching what you're doing and so on. Listen, Lindsay, before we go on,
yes.
David, you told me about David's video.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to show it? And then we'll go on. Jonathan Vincent's going to join us. Haunted House is going to join us shortly.
Well, just before the video, I just had a couple of things I wanted to share with you. I think you might find interesting as well.
Sure.
Because I'm going to pull up that video, but there were a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. And we talked about, before we went on air, whether you've heard of neural lace technology at all.
Yeah.
And there's a man by the name of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And he's been developing brain-computer systems. And there's an article in a news area talking about the fact that is human intelligence heading towards a cyborg-dominated future, and this person Elon Musk thinks so. And he's also, even though he's sending out the warnings that pretty soon AI could actually take over humanity in as much as they're information absorbing and analyzing and coming up with solutions and so forth. So in a recent tweet, the Tesla and SpaceX CEO teased that in a brain-computer system that links human brains to a computer interface, a neural lace may be announced early this year, reported TechCrunch. Musk first mentioned the neural lace concept in addition of a digital layer of intelligence to the human brain. And a Records Code conference last year, the brain-computer system would create a symbiosis with machines, Musk said. According to TechCrunch, Super Intelligent Machines 7 Robotic Futures. We're already a cyborg. I mean, you have a digital or partial version of yourself in the form of your emails and your social media and all the things that you do. And you have basically superpowers with your computer and your phone and the application that are there, Musk said at that conference. By building this connection to computers, Musk said that the humans would be able to keep pace with advances in artificial intelligence. As complex computers develop virtual intelligence, Musk warned that humans could be rendered vastly inferior. In comparison to computers, Musk said humans' fundamental limitation is input and output. The human output level is incredibly slow, such as using 2 thumbs to type on a phone, according to Musk, in comparison to the speed at which humans take in information. Effectively merging in a symbiotic way with digital intelligence revolves around eliminating the I/O constraint, which would be some sort of direct cortical interface, Musk said. So I just thought I'd share that little bit of news, but I also wanted to share something on screen, a couple of clips of some information, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. Oh, wait.
Yep, cool. Sorry.
Presenting myself. Okay. Phew. That little panic station was.
I know. I do apologise. I completely forgot. So, okay. So I'm going to go on the first video. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I'm presenting you to everyone. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to show a little bit of this. So here we go.
As if it's not obvious enough what's going on in this country with the promotion of the after-school Satan Club, with Satanists getting more and more rights, where people are looking at Satanists going, oh, they're not a bad group of people.
Volume.
Channels out there that stalk my channel and almost like do reviews on all the videos I do. That's how pathetic they are. And they go, why is he talking about Satanism? You know, why is he linking this little group of Satanists into all this stuff? Because these people actually, who even consider themselves truthers, buy into the fact that these Satanists who claim that they're not Satanists aren't in fact Satanists. They actually believe them when they say, oh, well, we're just atheists here. We don't believe the devil exists. Hold on, let me go put my Baphomet costume on and my cloak, and let me do a ritual inside of a gigantic circle with a pentagram, and let me do my bloodletting ritual. All these things that these Satanists do. I just exposed this event that they held in California where they did all sorts of black magic and satanic rituals. But it doesn't seem like it's a big deal because people don't think that it matters. But how about this? How about Obama and the IRS fast-tracking a tax exemption from the IRS for the after-school Satan Club? Documents obtained by Judicial Watch show the IRS fast-tracked tax-exempt status for an after-school Satan Club, while the federal agencies was discovered to be either denying conservative and Christian groups the same status or making them wait for years. Oh, what a surprise. And what a surprise, of course, this happens under satanic Mr. Barry Obama's watch as president of the United States. But all we hear about is what? All these Christians, oh, they get to do this, they get to do that. All the Satanists do is show up and mock Christians and attack Christians. They try to put their Baphomet statue here, but their Baphomet statue there. I'll tell you where they could stick their Baphomet statue. truth. But no, we're all just crazy, right? When our own government is fast-tracking the after-school Satan program so it can be tax exempt, well, it denies this same right for Christian groups and has been making them wait for years. According to the watchdog group that uncovered the IRS scandal during the Obama administration, the After-School Satan Club applied for its tax-exempt status designation on October 21st, 2014, and received it 10 days later. And you know what day they received that status on? October 31st. You see how they operate, how our government operates? Of course they got it approved on October 31st, their most sacred day, the day where they perform the most satanic human sacrifice rituals, a day where they target children and abduct them and kidnap them and traffic them. It must be a coincidence, right? We're all just crazy, you know? It's just us Christians. We're just seeing things that aren't there, right? October 31st, their day, that is their day, that the IRS fast-tracked this so they can specifically have this go through on this specific day. I mean, it's so in our faces, it's so ridiculous, yet nobody seems to care. The Judicial Watch says the IRS fast-tracked a deranged satanic cult to operate as a non-profit in taxpayer-funded elementary schools. Oh, right. Well, how convenient. But remember, these people aren't Satanists. Obama's not a Satanist. These people in our government aren't, because the Satanic Temple, they claim that they're just atheists targeting kids. The government fast-tracking this so that they can get these satanic after-school programs in as many schools as possible. And they're going to continue to pop up in public schools around the country. That is the plan. Like I said, they're going to slowly push them out, which they've done. People are going to go, oh, there's nothing crazy happening. No kids were killed. No kids were sacrificed. Satanic panic. They'll use trigger words like that. And the next thing you know, people go, oh, it's no big deal. Let them do what they want. Doesn't this just show you how the government fast-tracked this, how they want this? It says it's unclear why the Obama administration IRS appointees gave Satan clubs such special treatment back in 2014 after they had been stonewalling dozens of Tea Party, conservative, and Christian groups for years. Well, I'll make it pretty clear for you. If it's unclear for those of you out there, whoever wrote this article, I'll make it real clear. Because Obama is a Satanist, and the Satanic Temple, which fronts itself as an atheist group, are Satanists, and they're trying to indoctrinate children with Satanism and normalize it. And they're trying to say, look, we're intelligent people. We aren't killing anyone. Hold on, we have to go to the closest abortion clinic we can find so we can protest outside for women's rights because we're pro-choice. Wink, wink. Wonder why that is. Regarding that scandal, Judicial Watch says it obtained piles of government records showing how the IRS illegally colluded with another federal agency to single out groups with conservative-sounding terms. Meanwhile, the satanic organization behind the clubs is working to target any schools that have a good news club, launching after-school Satan clubs there to counteract the Christian influence. Well, being that they always throw their arms up in the air and they say, this isn't fair, this is bigotry, how come the Christians can do this? So they show up and they go, well, religious freedom, we're allowed to come here and we're allowed to do our satanic stuff right in front of your faces, even though the masses aren't aware that these people perform black magic rituals, human sacrifice, some of the most disturbing things you'll ever see, bloodletting rituals. They openly show that on their website. No big deal. So how about now, Satanic Temple, being that the IRS fast-tracked you, even though the IRS is snubbing other Christian groups out there, they deliberately fast-tracked you so conveniently you can become tax exempt on October 31st, which must be just another gigantic coincidence. So maybe the Christian groups should go out there now and say, well, this isn't fair, because that's all the Satanists do is go, well, this isn't fair. The Christians have the 10 Commandments here, so we want to put the Baphomet up. Christian this, Christian that. It's not fair. Even though they're banning Bibles in this country, they're banning Bible quotes from being allowed on people's desks at work. Yet this is the kind of crap that can go on. And nobody sees the connection, right? Nobody sees the connection of how Obama and his administration fast-tracked this so that these people could become tax exempt in 10 days. 10 days. You know how fast that is? It's ridiculous. It just shows you that our government wants this to spread, obviously, and it shouldn't surprise anyone who listens to this channel because I talk about this every day. This is far bigger than just some small satanic group who wants to go around into schools because they want to stick it to the Christian organizations. The government is behind them, okay? There are many different channels.
Yep.
Who is this talking?
A call for an uprising.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's Mark Passio.
Okay.
Could be.
Whoever it is,
yes.
It sounds a little bit Alex Jonesy to me. You know,
well,
look at what's happening. Oh my God!
You can. This is the point I want to make right now. I want to stress this for me to make my point. When I listen to somebody, I don't focus on their delivery methods as a reaction, whether I'm finding his mannerisms unpleasant to hear, or whether or not I'm listening to him it distracts from the content of what he's trying to get across. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that he is an individual that, can't be described in many different ways. What I am saying, though, there is a point at what he's basically confirming. And I say confirming is because when you have a look at the history of the governments moving these agendas forward, there is a statue that's been erected, which is Satan. And there's a young girl and a young boy to the left and to the right of this creature who's got goat's legs and horns and all that sort of stuff. And this is now in public for viewing. It's a statue. It's there. It's been erected. The point is that there is this mechanism that's going on, which is very similar to what the Protestants had against them by the Catholics or the Jesuits. They created this massive, war against them, if you like. It's similar to what's going on today. And so, yes, you can get people with an audience like this and hear him and he can rant on. But there's a point at which he's trying to get across as well. So whilst I don't focus on his personality or his delivery, if the information that he's trying to get across confirms that there is an agenda going on, then this information is just basically adding to that. It's just basically another piece of information that you can say, okay, this is what you get as a result. You get people that act in out of character, if you like. They exuberate, or if that's a word, but they express themselves in a manner of people are not waking up, and they get so expressive and
no, I understand. I understand that, but this is the thing. What this is indicating is, right, look, you had this administration that's trying to destabilize society to such a degree that it's writing laws whereby through those laws they feel duty bound to allow the freedom of the religions, including religions that oppose other religions, and look at what we're ending up with. Really, it's two sides of Christianity. Luciferianism and Satanism is a side of Christianity, no matter what anybody says. If the guy was balancing this report out with the paedophile statues that they have in the Vatican, in the Vatican, in some of the churches, they have pedophilic statues, okay? And this is not, if you look at it a certain way, this is genuinely. So if the guy was saying this, which was, look at how you're being distracted with all of these thoughts about religion and how one religion is taking over the other, or how all of those things are doing the bait and switch. Whilst they're taking your attention into this, they're hiding the real dark stuff that goes on, like the really dark stuff that goes on that these people are engaged with, be it Pizzagate style stuff, or be it the guys here in the UK in the South, where is it? Those kids in London, in a borough of London.
Guernsey.
No.
Hampstead.
The Hampstead case. They don't talk about that. They keep that quiet. This guy's talking about a religious group set up by atheists who, masquerade as Satanists or whatever. It's like, how about if he pointed out to the Hampstead case? Then that would be worthwhile. But all that he's saying is, look at this side of the bread and circus. That's what this is saying. That's why I was saying his delivery, the content that he's describing, and his delivery is bread and circuses. That is what it is.
Let's also understand this. This is a one video talking about one specific thing, and that topic is what he's engaged in talking about. Now, there are other links to other videos that he's also played, which I've watched some of them, and he talks about other topics that are not related to this specific thing. So whilst this video can be analysed and taken out of that so-called context and analysed for itself, yes, he could introduce so many other facets that could make this video more fair in terms of bringing in both sides. And the point I want to make here is this. Whilst I understand that he's coming from also what is a Christian viewpoint, if you like, I'm not necessarily looking at it from that perspective myself. I'm listening to what he has to say simply because it is something that shows shows that this is happening. That's all I'm taking from it. What I wanted to show you was a completely different thing, and something I think you'll find also very interesting, but something completely different. So I want to go off this topic, if you like, and lead to something else, if you don't mind.
No, but just to finish on the topic you were on with the Satanism, the social justice warrior ideology is the ideology that allows and helps things like this. In Canada, they had a university that was going to be hosting the first ever some ritual, some Satanist ritual on the university. But these things happen as a consequence. They don't just happen with, you know, society being all hunky-dory and then suddenly says, hey, how about we start worshipping the epitome of suffering and evil? It's like, no. You have these steps that are laid out before that stage, and the steps are laid out by organizations like the social justice warriors, who say, well, everybody should be included. You shouldn't be excluded just because you think that maybe whatever it is you think. So despite me saying what you're showing is really bread and circuses being addressed as bread and circuses for the people out there to say, look, pay attention to this because this is alarming and it's true. It's like, yes, it's true. That's not what's alarming. What's alarming is what's gone before that it's not being mentioned, like what laws were put into place to enable something like this to happen, because this wouldn't have happened without a law preceding.
Exactly.
So this is what I mean by bread and circuses. The bread and circuses is all about keeping people engaged and occupied whilst other stuff is being done. It's not keep them engaged and occupied so that the coffers can carry on turning into the cash machines. It's so that other stuff can be done in the background, you know? And this is it. That's what the bread and circuses is for.
Well,
so you're going to show another video. By the way, hi, Haunted House.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting what you say, because it's exactly how I see all sorts of information. Most of it is to actually take away your attention and focus on something that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And the point that you make is that it is why I have when I watch information, I am not focused on the presenter or the person that's delivering it. That just helps me. I don't take all the information in and just blindly accept it. I have discernment. I have, critique about it.
Yeah, of course. That wasn't a criticism of you. It was a criticism of him. By the way, I'm presenting Jonathan Vincent with GoPro style lens.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So I'm going to lead on to this next topic, which is just a little bit of information. Superhuman, sexier and stronger humans by 2029. It goes on from the article that I talked about before, so it just might confirm something. I just wanted to play it just for a bit.
Yeah, cool.
You are at all interested in where they're pushing our humanity. You see what I mean? By 2029, superhumans who are sexier, stronger, and smarter will arrive by 2029. All the while, they're trying to turn everybody into a transgender Satanist. For what reason do you figure? Because in order to open up the mind or the brain's capabilities, putting a neural lace on, putting on an additional item like this pictured right here, isn't the way to go. It's through knowing exactly what our real purpose on this earth is and having the keys to the information locked up in the Vatican's vaults, not this thing. I'll leave you links in the description, but I told you it was coming. Several of us have told you it was coming, and now they're telling you that it's coming. Richie from Boston, it's coming.
It would be so much more hard hitting if he said, because the truth is we're on a flat plane.
Well, I think he does recognize the plane is flat. I'm not sure, but I think he does. Anyway, I'll move on. This is interesting. So I suppose to me, I don't know whether I should say this now, but when I'm observing this, what I'm also recognizing is that these two people right now are actually communicating, they're expressing love, and they're doing it very, very successfully. And it can make a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but it's just an energy, and it's an interesting thing. So I'm going to listen to this. I don't know whether you know what it's about, so I'm just going to let you listen to this. Just and let me know when you want it to stop.
Okay.
Say something. I got to breathe. Say something. We have this story. I'm trying to get it all in. This story. I'm trying to get the speech. It's so amazing. It's just an amazing story. And one thing, can I tell?
Volume.
Of course you can.
and I wasn't there. This is all Ralph's story. But Otis Carr told all of his crew at one point that he had written a book on poems.
That's the loudest I can get it.
Okay, cool.
But then
Yes, please
he
do.
went to the patent office. He worked hard enough to get a patent. Now, he's got prototypes working on alternative energy, these spaceships, little spaceships. And he took it to the patent office and says, I want a patent on this because I want to develop it for people instead of the cars. They can have the cars, but they got this too. Well, the patent office looked at it and said, wait a minute, you're talking levitation, you're talking teleportation. That is not in conventional science. We can't use this. The only thing we can give you a patent on is an amusement device. And we will do that if you'll pull those things out. All the wonderful, simplistic things of the craft had to be pulled out, and he got a patent for an amusement device, which he eventually set up in Norman, Oklahoma, in an amusement park. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, anyway, he wrote this book, and it's Dimensions of Mystery, and he told.
It's on our website if anybody's interested in looking at it. The website's bluestarenterprise.com, and it's there, free download, and they can look at
the
it.
original copies on the website, and then Carr told his crew, Ralph being part of it, that when it was decoded, all of these poems and everything was decoded, it would tell the story of how to build a spaceship.
People would be able to eventually build their own in the comfort of their own living room. They could build devices, alternative business, and with the advent of the 3D printers, they'll be able to make their own devices without having to count on or depend
Who are
on
they talking about?
cost them an arm and a leg to even think about it, let alone doing it.
Just listen.
One of our pods in Australia,
God bless him.
I know he
I'm
actually.
going to mention his name because he's an angelic angel to me. His name is Ben Howland, and he's in Australia, and he's been working for 4 years on reproducing our spaceship. We've had several models, several prototypes that he keeps improving every month. He's found another way of improving them to the point where we're now in a holding pattern, waiting for the consciousness to raise high enough to accept the principles involved, and the activation has to be done with the consciousness to know that you can use your mind. You don't need ignition switches and steering wheels anymore. You can use your mind to operate these craft. So he's at that point now. We're kind of in a limbo.
He actually decoded this book, and the decoded copy is also on the website.
All
The
free.
original copy is there, and the
Decoded
decoded
copy.
copy. But anyway, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's about your story.
Oh, it's my turn.
It's your turn. It's about the spaceship and you met Carr. Okay.
So
You were going. You went
I was
to
in
the
the understanding group. Very beautiful, benevolent people. Just gorgeous because all they wanted was truth. That was the whole idea. Understand truth, opposed to the falsehoods that they've been fed in growing up and in jobs, and everything they did was falsehoods. And they joined this group, and we had people from all walks of life. And I told them my story, and they said, "Well, you sound like a guy that's in Norman, Oklahoma right now, demonstrating his prototypes for the spaceship, and he wants to do the same thing. And I'd love to put you guys together because you sound like you belong together." So long story short, because he was running into trouble there, they tried to shut him down, and they tried everything. They tried to discredit him and all kinds of stuff. So the understanding group pooled their resources and invited him and his entourage. Come on to California. We want to give you a chance to do what you want to do. Long story short, him and his entourage was about 8. I think there was 8 people. Yeah. Engineers and physicists, PR people and stuff. Came out to California. We joined together in the understanding group in Costa Mesa. And when I met Carr, man, I was just like, oh, whoa, this guy is talking my language, and vice versa. We just got into hours and hours of conversations about beautiful things, and everybody's looking at everything the wrong way. Their perceptions of things are backwards. They don't see the beauty. They see only what they can make out of it or make from it, and not experience the energy field that this beauty would give you if you took the time to enjoy it. So the understanding group says, well, we've done some research, and things are moving along, and we've got a giant cabin up in Lake Arrowhead, California. It's up in the woods, and we'd like all you guys, if it's large enough to accommodate all of you, go up there and wait, and we'll get things rolling for you and find a place to work. Now, at this point, and the understanding group was of a high enough caliber or a high enough level in their consciousness to use what we call manifestation. They knew that they were working on divine principles, not authentic principles, not synthetic. And so they knew this is happening, and we're all a part of this. So everybody, you got to get in the picture here.
Lindsay.
Sorry. So,
Hello.
Okay, will you tell me the name of the site that they're talking about and the name of that video?
How Consciousness Powers of Free Energy, New Earth, Ralph and Marsha Ring with host Patty Greer. I can share the link.
Yes.
Hey, Lindsay. What's up, Lindsay?
Hello. How are you, mate?
It's Jonathan.
Jonathan, how you doing? All right.
I'm doing good, man. I know this guy, Ralph Ring.
Oh, yeah.
I saw his interview. He has one really good interview. Unfortunately, it's with that what's her name? Project Camelot.
Yeah, this is Alfred Lambermont Webre.
Yeah, I don't like that. I've had it out with that dude, Alfred Lambermont. He's an anti-flat earther, pro-alien promotion guy.
Well, I don't know anything about him, so yeah, I watched.
Interesting guy.
Yeah,
he was the guy who he was in a device, some kind of like thank you, some kind of UFO kind of disc thing, and they powered it by focusing on the color aquamarine.
Yes,
and they made it travel, I think, a quarter mile down the way in the test facility outdoors. Him and a couple other guys. It was one of Otis T. Carr's inventions.
That's really cool. So I've queued the video. I just wanted Lindsay to say the name of the video in case anybody else wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
So, really interesting. Now, Jonathan, what's going on with your camera?
Oh, that's this.
Ah, okay.
It's a little like clip-on thing.
Huh.
You want to
That's
keep it
really
on?
Interesting. You see a lot more of you.
Yeah, I know. It's a little.
Yeah, we saw your girlfriend as well, by the way. Tell her she looks like a ninja.
You look like a ninja. Antonio said you look like a ninja.
Ow, I'm here.
She's looking in the mirror now.
She just sneaks in, and instead of taking your life, she brings you a drink. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. So, this UFO guy.
Well,
Yeah, Ralph Ring.
Yeah, that's
Interesting guy.
yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting.
Not much about him though. Not much info really about him.
No, and this is why sorry to interrupt, but this is why I wanted to share this, because this is an interview. I hadn't heard of this Ralph Ring before, and I'm glad somebody else has. That's good.
Well, if you listen to John Searle, Searle, yeah. There's a whole group. There was also another guy. I think it was called Bill Lyme, Lyme. There's a series of guys who are now kind of getting on in age, some of whom have passed away, who invented all kinds of different flying devices that didn't need hooking up to electricity or any kind of external fuel. There's a variety of them, and you never hear anything about them because like the guy said when he took it to the patent office, he was told this is not conventional science.
Exactly.
And this is one of my biggest bugbears, okay? When you have terms that have a meaning like science has a meaning. The actual meaning of science is the study of the natural world. That's what science stands for. That's what it means. The same with art, the same with truth, the same with love, the same with a whole group of archetypes, if you want to call them that. Things that have a standalone meaning, okay? There is a complete meaning. You might look at different facets, but they have a complete meaning. So science has a meaning. Now, if the guy had said to him, this doesn't follow science, then the guy would have heard that what he was saying was absurd, because he would have been saying, this doesn't follow natural laws. Well, obviously it does, because if it exists in the real world, it's following the rules you need to exist in the real world. So if these levitation devices exist, it's because they're sharing the rules and laws of the real world. So instead they say conventional science, which means you need to power in to get power out. You can't have more power out than you're putting in, and all of that nonsense, which is the end result of the education system that we have. Sorry, Jonathan, you were saying?
I was going to say, meaning it's got to explode.
Well, yes, it's got to explode. It's got to be yang. It has to unbalance. It has to work on a system of unbalancing. So unraveling a whole bunch of energy that's compacted in one way. It's all about unbalance and getting propulsion out of this imbalance, rather than using balance itself on which to propel. The sun doesn't burn a whole bunch of energy to make its way across the sky, nor does the moon, nor do the oceans have to use up a hell of a lot of energy to move all of that water around with the tide. They all glide, they all go along with energies that are already there. And all of these devices, strangely enough, they all work that way, using the energies that are already there, and they just glide on them.
Antonio, the problem is that there is no energy in matter. There's only energy in the environment, and the environment is everywhere, and therefore energy is everywhere, and therefore energy can be sourced from anywhere at any point because it's everywhere. All you need is to understand that inverse or implosion, it is the opposite of explosion. That's where you get your free energy from. That's where you get your ether energy from. That's where you get your source energy from. That's as simple as that. Any science that tries to describe energy in an explosive manner only, they're only using half of the science, and it's
They leave the cause out.
It's the false science. And the further they hide this, because they're using this technology themselves, and they've already probably completely and utterly mastered it. But they don't want to release it because they're making so much money and they're doing so much damage to Earth by keeping this explosive energy going. Again, to me, that's economics, politics. That's how the Earth is being driven.
I've written something behind me.
Let me throw this in there because this pertains to exactly what you're talking. I don't know if you guys mentioned last time about animals and how I think it might have been birds or something like that.
Animal communication.
But okay, well, have you familiar with how trout move upstream?
Yes.
How they use their gills to create a vortex?
Yes,
inside?
and the shape of the fish is egg-shaped when you look at it straight on, and it causes the vortices to actually have an inverse energy, and the inverse energy goes against the flow of the water, and it forces like a jet through currents that they know where they exist in the water. As the water's coming down, there's an energy going all the way up, and they take a portal and go zoop, all the way up.
The more pressure that goes towards the head, the more pressure that's kind of funneled, so focused at the tail, so they get propulsion forwards. That's the trout against the flow of the river. Now I want to show you something here. Can you see these numbers?
4,200, 10,000.
Yeah. Do you know what they apply to?
No, is it?
I know 42 is the secret of the universe.
Yeah. No, this is 4,200.
Okay.
Kelvin.
Okay.
That's the power of the sun. 10,000 Kelvin is the power of the blue sky, not the sun, the blue sky.
How is that measured?
With Kelvin meters, with light meters, that's the power of the blue sky is 10,000. The power of the sun is 4,200. The blue of the sky has more power than the power of the sun. Now we feel the burningness of the sun and we see the brightness of the sun. But in terms of quantifiable energy, the blue of the sky is 10,000 versus 4,200.
The incandescence of the sun.
No. We're not. No. We're talking photon waves, whatever it is that Kelvin are measuring. But what I'm saying is, when you say there's abundant energy everywhere, it's like, yes, there is. Absolutely. And when we kind of focus our attention on looking at energy because of what we might assume has the highest level of energy, we're going to think the sun has higher level of energy because we burn from the sun. We don't burn from the blue sky. But that doesn't mean that's what has the most energy. So the same with a river. If we look at a river, if we put our hand in a river, the flow of the river is going to push our hand to go along with the flow. But then it's going to turn out, if you're a trout and you're a shape, then the flow of the river is going to propel you up the stream. The same with salmon. I've seen salmon jumping up waterfalls, and you think, how the hell are they doing that? How much momentum are they gathering in the water to leave the water and go up this water that's falling down and go up? How the hell do they do that? Well, Schauberger explains it.
Yes.
He explains exactly how they do that.
There are currents going inside the water. As the water's coming down, there's also energy currents going upward, opposite. There has to be. That's what Schauberger was saying.
But even if the actual current isn't itself going up,
no, the energy is going up.
So if we think of this, okay, we have above us, we know that above us, there's stuff that weighs down, okay? Even clouds, we can establish how much a cloud might weigh, in terms of actual density and weight. The air pressure, we know that things weigh. And there's something up there that somehow doesn't fall down on us, even though it must have weight. And in the Bible, they thought of things like pillars underneath us or pillars above or curtains certain poles or whatever. But that's because we're thinking from a human perspective, where we think the sun is the thing that's more powerful. No, it isn't. A stream that flows down must push things going down. Well, it doesn't. It helps some things go up, like literally helps them go up. The pressure from the thing above us, or the firmament or the heavens, the pressure itself can be the thing that's keeping it up there. We just think in terms of, we have a really narrow view on the natural phenomena, and we arrive at conclusions, and those conclusions are often wrong, like that you have to have combustion engines to get propulsion on machines that work with gears and all of these things, that you have to have a device that converts motion into electricity so that you can use the electricity. All of these things, they're very narrow-minded. And when you get people like the guy you were showing in the video, the guy that was being discussed, or John Searle, who developed something so simple that works, that doesn't follow conventional science, so the blinkered view of the world, which is conventional science, you have people saying, well, we'll discard that because it doesn't follow the blinkered conventional science view of the world. And that's the globe. There you go. We have a globe. Yeah, see, the stars move, therefore we're spinning through space. And it's gibberish. And it's time that we start looking outside, like you're doing, Lindsay. You're looking outside at things, you know. So many people don't.
What I find interesting about this interview, if you like, is the story that he's telling, which I find quite compelling. And the reason I find it compelling is that with all the information I've so far researched, I'm understanding that our universe is electromagnetic, and it's this electromagnetic relationship that create opposing forces in our dimensional polarity. And these opposing forces, you have quite clearly the pressure that you refer to of, say, the firmament or something above is being resisted. It has the opposite of Earth. So you would have Earth has a certain magnetic polarity, and the firmament, or the so-called sky above, the heavens, they are opposing. So they sit on top of each other, but they like bounce. If you have two magnets opposing, they just can't connect. So you've got this flow force that keeps this flow going, and this toroidal current, like Schauberger described, this flow occurs. And with this flow, you have this automatic motion. So the firmament above goes in a circular motion and just rotates around and around and around.
And the sun and the moon.
Well, yeah, and they have a separate magnetic influence that creates a different motion for them. And the way perception-wise, the information and so forth, I'm identifying the firmament as crystal liquid. And the reason is because crystals can contain vast amounts of information. And they've shown also that if you emit a beam of light through certain crystals, you can actually hold that light. You can freeze it, stop it from moving for a period of time. So crystals can contain energy that brings about light. And this is where you might see the motions of the luminaries or the stars, so to speak, living within this crystal liquid and having its own rotational toroidal relationship with whatever else is out there. That's how I perceive.
So if you think about it, you have these guys, okay, usually they're kind of the engineers, or they come from some engineering background, electrical engineering or some other engineering background. And somehow, often, what I've noticed is often some of their discoveries come from dream, you know? They had a dream and they got up and they fiddled, and lo and behold, here they have something that works and that's not conventional science, okay? But the fact that they work is telling us they're tapping it into something that's not understood, at least not understood by conventional scientists. So there must be a framework of available actions, available mechanisms, available sources of phenomena that are not understood by us, that we have the foggiest idea about, but that are still extant. They exist, they're here, they're available, and we just don't know about them. We've got a blinkered view, and we follow this blinkered view. Whenever somebody comes along and says, hey, you know, that this other thing, it causes so much cognitive dissonance to the conventional scientist that the conventional scientist will debunk it. They'll try and work with it like cold fusion. They'll try and work with it, but they'll use a different gauge, they'll use all kinds of different stuff, not arrive at the same conclusion and say, well, we tried it and it failed, therefore it doesn't pass the peer review process. And with these guys, they take something to the patent office. If it's gone to the patent office, it means it's passed, it's being reviewed. You don't just write a patent and take it to the patent office and the patent office says, yeah, okay, we'll give you this patent for levitation boots. You have to show how it works, you know?
Well, apparently in this interview, because I'm not going to show it all, it goes for 2.5 hours, but part of this was where he presented to Ford his device and made the suggestion during this discussion that this is something that could replace the automobile. And he was immediately ridiculed and apparently was, told that, we're going to whitewash you. Whatever you do, this technology can't come out. This is just another sort of evidence to me that shows the suppression of our technology that we should be using right now, that we're not.
Well, even within conventional science, you have something that was developed. It was called the Firestorm spark plug. And it was a spark plug that had 3 terminals instead of 2. You know how a spark plug has, it had 3. Okay. So the pulse the arc would happen between the 3. So what it would do when there was fuel in the chamber, instead of igniting a portion of that fuel, which is what happens, and once that portion it has been lit up and the oxygen has been consumed and there's no more for it to consume, it won't, that's it, it's finished, it's out through the exhaust. The Firestorm spark plug had this 3 spark system that lit up, I think it was like 98% of the fuel that was in there, was so much more conservative in terms of fuel, could fit into any vehicle. It was the same device. So that company was bought. The guy who patented that, he produced them. The company was bought by Firestorm, a company that called itself Firestorm, and they just completely got rid of those spark plugs. You can't get the 3 spark plug, the 3 terminal.
And the other thing that I found interesting with this interview, as Ralph was talking about how you can interact with this object that he's created using mental energy and having a certain level of that energy, understanding it, and then sort of mastering how to control it. And so the way I'm looking at this is that he's talking about magnetism. He says it's all understanding magnetism, because everything is magnetism. And so what he's also therefore saying is that magnetism is a vibration, and the definition of that vibration, that frequency, is the vibration of love. And so love is not this wishy-washy, mishy-mashy kind of modern way of looking at it. It's not that at all. It is an energy that is described as being the base source of all emotions. All other energies that emit from that are fractal from that source. And so the reason I mentioned earlier about this so-called connection that they seem to have is because the years of having this relationship they have grown to understand each other at a deeper level, but because they understand more about nature. And it tells me also that this is a direction that seems to be leading us to understand that we are restricted by our growth. We don't grow to this level. It's very difficult, therefore, for us to really relate to it or understand it, because it's not in our paradigm. We don't perceive of it the way that they understand it. And so we may not necessarily relate to it, but there's a telling tale with this, and there's a connection to this, because so many people, Nikola Tesla said it so many times, that the universe is magnetic, it's electromagnetic. And Ralph here is confirming that he's found a way to source that energy and then use that energy through his own avatar to transmit that energy to another physical object, and then that object operate as the mind informs it to.
So one of the things that he said was they've got this, I forget what term he used, kind of waiting in the wings until the level of consciousness is reached.
Yes.
So that whenever we develop this level of consciousness that doesn't require the transhumanist engaging that Elon Musk and the other was talking about, because these guys are talking from, it looks to me like it's just like the organic consequence of consciousness.
Antonio, you nailed on the head just there. This is the reason why they're promoting transhumanism, because it will detract those that follow that path away from their pure consciousness. They will develop only the false consciousness.
The hive mind of the Borg.
Exactly.
So if you picture this, guys, okay, you have a chip implanted in your brain, and it's really cool because you can just close your eyes and engage with Facebook or make a phone call with your friend and whatever, all from your head, right? And you start thinking, I wonder if, and you start thinking something that the artificial intelligence has already established would not be beneficial for the artificial intelligence. So it just switches you off, just switch this unit off, because that's how artificial intelligence would see humans. It would see humans as units. It wouldn't see them as a separate thing. In fact, it would see them as a pretty decadent, decaying unit. You also had the video. I want to see the video that David produced.
Yes. Now, I'm going to get the link. You sent it, or should I look it up? I'm just going to find it now for you.
So this is a video by Gandhi, by David Chan there, people.
You did? Okay, cool. Oh, I haven't got Facebook open. It takes up so much memory. Yeah.
By the way, who did that design for your computer, for your laptop, David?
Oh, it was someone I met on that when we were at Oxford.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was this couple. I can't put their leaflet. I just don't know their names off the top of my head.
That's dreadful. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, embarrassed, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They'll be happy. You'll remember them at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to, when you go to meetings, so like Flat Earth meeting, it's like, going to conference, but people don't put badges with their names on. So you meet so many people, and unless you're very used to meeting lots of people and remembering faces and names, it's very difficult to remember afterwards.
It was good to go and meet people, though. That was good.
Yeah, that's where, for anybody who doesn't know, that's where I met Lindsay and David at Oxford. That's where we met.
Yeah.
We shared some food.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys were in that video?
Food and great times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I remember the video. I remember Robert Shortman.
Yeah, if you go to that video, if you watch it, there were a couple of those videos. If you watch them, you'll see them there.
I had a Flat Earth, New Jersey meetup going on for about 6 months.
Yeah.
What, you have one coming up?
No, this was on meetups.com.
Okay.
Which provides a really terrible interface. Like, you can't get messages right, and it was just really like a dodgy interface. And we had one meetup where 5 people came, and it was still 2015, and one guy had never even said Flat Earth outside of his house. I don't even think he'd ever said it. He just been watching videos. So it was weird for him, because he was like, this is so strange. And I was like, I was the one who had been in it for the longest, but there was one guy who reached out, who was a couple of towns over, who's a film guy, and 3 other guys. And it was just regular people. We met at a diner, talked about Flat Earth and conspiracy.
Did you talk about it loudly or quietly in hushed tones so people wouldn't hear?
We noticed a few waiters kind of like looking around, walking by a little, like coming by a little bit too low, like lingering. Like, the fuck are they talking about?
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was cool. But then, meetups charges like $12 per month, and I was like, this is crazy.
What's wrong with Facebook?
What's that?
What's wrong with Facebook?
I know, right? That should have been transferred to that. But a lot of people that joined into it were from other places. Like, there were some people from South Africa. I was like, fuck it, They made you make up a little questionnaire first. So I was asking people, would a sundial work on a flat Earth?
Yeah.
Which is a trick question. Sundial would work sundial would always work.
Of course. Hey, have you heard what Political Hillbilly did a couple of days ago?
No.
Okay, so Sly Sparkane really messed up when he made his debunking Antonio and Hillbilly video. He made this video of the eclipse and so on and so forth. And Hillbilly had made his video with a 27-day lunar cycle. So I was talking about this earlier tonight with rock vibration. The sidereal moon cycle, 27 days. Okay, and this is how long it takes for the moon, which goes across the sky with the stars a little bit faster than the stars, for the moon to make a full cycle back to any star. So if it covers Sirius, it's going to take 27 days to get back. Okay, that's it. That's this sidereal moon. It has nothing to do with the sun, has nothing to do with the moon phases, has nothing to do with the Earth, actually. Got nothing to do with anything. It's just this astronomical navel gazing. I'm going to look at how long it takes a moon to occlude another star. Okay, 27 days. However, a month or the moon phases or the new moon is 29 days. Slice Parquet made a model of the moon on a 27-day orbit of the Earth, which doesn't happen. The moon's orbit of the Earth is 29 days. Had the shadow going west to east because he tweaks everything a little bit. And Hillbilly pointed this out to him. But what he did, and this is why I'm mentioning this, was he said, we have this flat earther who goes by Slice Parquet, because even though he doesn't know it, he's a flat earther. Because everybody's a flat earther, of course. They all live on a freaking flat plane. Just some of them think they're walking around a spinning globe. But everybody, so next time somebody says, oh, you're a flat earther, I'm going to say, so are you. What do you think you are? Friggin' magical.
I know, right? I like that logic. That's such a great mentality to have. We are all flat earthers.
Yes.
And it comes down to like, what's the problem with the flat earth? What's the problem with it being flat?
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand it or don't agree with it, it doesn't really change anything for right in your immediate space.
Yeah.
The other thing I like to do to people who start arguing about reality, telling me that you can debate facts and reality. If they say, well, on a globe, this and that, it's like, wait a minute, what globe?
Yeah.
What ball? Or they'll say something like, just because it's flat, it doesn't mean it's flat.
Yeah. Just because there's no curvature and everything's flat and the horizon is to eye level, and it doesn't, just because it doesn't behave like a globe doesn't mean that it's not a globe. Yeah, that is what it means. That's what that means.
The problem is they react without actually doing any thinking, and the reactions they give out are normally things that they've been taught to think of as evidence of it being a spinning globe. So their logic just doesn't match what they're hearing. The words the Earth is flat. It just doesn't go anywhere. It kind of
Lindsay, I've done this thought experiment with a globe link. Done it with 3 globe link. Okay, they've been talking about the horizon. I'm like, look, okay, if you want to get your head around the horizon, in your worldview, it's because of a curve. It's not because of a curve. It's because of your angle of attack to the horizon. Okay, because of the incidence point. That's what it is. It's called perspective. That happens. Now, if you want to get your head around it, just imagine you're lying down on the ground and you've got two columns that go off to infinity. If you have your head between these 2 columns, it doesn't matter how far away they are. They're going to enter your view from the corners of your eyes and they're going to converge at a point. That's what's going to happen. Is it not? And they've all 3 of them said, no, they go off to infinity. I said, right, yes, they do. They go off to infinity, but they have to converge because that's how sight works, because here they're 10 meters away and there they're 10 meters away, but 10 meters away at that point equals 10 inches across your sight in your field of vision, and further it's 1 inch, and further it's half an inch, and further it's like a minuscule bit. That's how vision works, right? And they've said, no, they never meet.
Well,
I'm saying in your view,
that's their limit of their perspective that they have. That's the limit.
Yes.
That's the horizon they've created.
They've externalized their vision.
Yes.
When it should be, your vision is you.
Exactly.
You can't externalize vision.
Yes.
So and the thing is, this is what I find amusing, is that they do twist that. You say to them, yes, they never meet. They're parallel to each other. They just go up. But when you look upwards to see them, in your view, at some point, they will be looking as if they're touching. And when they are touching, that's the point at which you've just created the horizon. That is your horizon.
Yes.
That's your view, the angle looking up. You've created these 2 lines, these 2 poles. That is your horizon. That's your limit of view. Anything beyond that, you won't see.
And what they say is, no, because they never meet. And you're like, okay, look, if you can't engage with that level of thinking, which is Socratic, logic. It's not magical thinking. They have to meet. There isn't a way where you can have them not meeting if they continue traveling. If the length continues to get longer, like, and I said to them, can you, if what you're saying is right, then you should be able to draw it, because I can draw you what I'm talking about, but you can't draw what you're talking about.
Straight line going up doesn't, it's a flat 2D image. Then it has no perspective.
Yeah, and one of them, when I showed them the computer program, I forget who it was, if it was PK or who it was, maybe my perspective, had a grid on a globe the size of the Earth and on a flat plane. Have you seen the footage? I mean, side by side, and just starts going up on a balloon, starts going up.
Yeah.
And this one starts to curve and then starts to drop. Yeah. Whereas this one just keeps revealing more and more lines. It's a grid, a yellow on black grid. Yeah. It just reveals more and more and more and more. And the perspective of these here, closer to you, drops, but the line is still there. Okay. At eye level. Whereas this one has dropped away.
This is perfect. Might lead into David's video now.
Cool. Go for it.
Okay. So I'm ready to share again.
Okay. Wait.
I'm now focused on you at the moment.
Okay, good. So now you can share, and then I will present you.
Okay, so I'm pressing share now, and I'm just going to that video now. Where is it? Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, do you want to hit the volume?
Yes, I will. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very good. It freaked me out when I first watched it because he didn't tell me what I was looking at. And I thought that was a plane flying over an ocean originally.
That was very cool.
Did I miss something there? How did the plane come out from the side?
Oh, that was a different plane.
That was another
all right.
Coming onto the runway, I think.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, I don't get it.
There's a Silis, whatever that Pac-Man model flat Earth map was, and it had just gone out of one portal and come in. Yeah. No, it's that was really cool because the runway's got to be flat. There's no chance that they've made a runway with a bit of a curve,
Did you ever see the video somebody made with the laugh track and those two idiots from Flat Earth Conspiracy?
I don't know.
The blonde and the other one, Lawrence Wright.
Oh, and, yeah.
Someone put a laugh track on it. Oh my God, it's just too funny. I'm trying to think who the fuck did that. It is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen because they can't figure out what they're doing, and Lawrence Wright can't figure out what he's doing, and they're having technical issues, and it's embarrassing. It's very cringy.
If you can find, Laurie Freire. What happened to them? They just kind of fizzled away, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there are still people saying the typical atlas display of the Earth that they grew up with must be how the sun works, especially on the equinox. It's like, no. The sun works on the equinox very much like it works the other day. It's just at a different point, but it's still making circles. That's what it's doing. All the shadows from the north point to the north. All the shadows from the south south, point to the south. That's what it's doing. But they say, no. It comes in here and it disappears there. You say, well, okay. Then when it's traveling at the Tropic of Cancer and you're in Alaska, why is it that if the sun is to the south, they can see it to their north? Because they can in Alaska. They say, we've not decided how that works yet. It's like, no, you don't decide how things work. You establish how things work. You investigate. You do study and research.
If the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts.
Yeah.
That's the way they do it.
Yeah.
That's a nice bit of history. Doesn't that plane look like a salmon?
Like a salmon. Do you want to play that again?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, that was cool. Okay, you ready?
All right, let me present you to everyone. Right. Notice the distortion, people.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. Notice
the engines. They get bigger and bigger, but you can see the pixelation of them. As they're coming into view.
But also notice the distortion that's going on with the aileron. Is it the aileron, the tail of the plane, the upright, the vertical?
Yeah.
No. Above the top of the plane, that's the tail.
Yes.
Notice how long it is.
Massive. I thought these were wings when I first saw the image. I thought they were, hiding in the fog. I thought this was all ocean, and I thought this was a refraction. The reflection off the water. It blew me away when I started seeing actually what it was, and these wings coming into appearance on the left and right. Yep. Okay, I'm playing it again. And that's also a big point. You can't even see beyond the end of a runway.
Yeah.
On the conditions of the day, obviously.
And the pilot, especially on the second plane that came in, he was thinking, the hell's that cameraman doing on the runway? That was cool.
That clip was actually taken from a film back in the 80s called Koyaanisqatsi, and it's a Francis Coppola film.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the title is taken from the Native American term, and it means life in chaos.
Wow.
Right, the Hopi word.
Yeah.
What was that? That music wasn't from the movie, though, was it?
No. I thought I'd be clever and add over it so I could avoid the copyright.
Oh, okay.
But no, they still picked up the image.
Oh, so is it not available in all regions?
I haven't got that. So it just says that whoever owns it will put adverts on.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know how into I don't want to call it a zombie movie, but movies or film you guys are. But I saw a really cool Korean movie last night called Train to Busan.
Yeah, I've been recommended by my sister to watch that.
It's cool. I think that the guy did a really good job. Kind of like 28 Days Later, but much more aggression and panic. It's because it's on a train, and then it's kind of back off the train and back on the train.
Okay.
And there was a neat movie called The Witch, which I saw the other day, which is it was a low budget kind of horror movie, more of a moody movie that took place in like the 1600s. This family's banished. Two characters are from Game of Thrones. And Tony, you probably remember the woman who's always letting her kid suckle on her breasts.
Yeah.
That one. She's in the movie, and there's a scene where she's letting her daughter breastfeeding her. I'm like, geez, is that her MO? And
Yeah.
The guy who takes the guy who kind of advises Theon, the dude who kind of like, looks at him when Theon's kind of like trying to round up his troops, and there's one guy who's kind of like egging him on to do, to like be more aggressive, and
Yeah.
he's kind of a minor character. He was in the movie too. He played the father, but a really cool, atmospheric, wild movie. There was something else. Australian director Peter Weir, the guy who did Truman Show, Dead Poets Society.
Oh yeah.
The movie Fearless. He did a movie in the 70s called Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yeah.
Which Australian movie it takes place in 1900. About these. Have you seen that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I've been to Hanging Rock. We picnicked.
Yeah. Is it big?
Separate times. It covers about a couple of acres of land, I suppose. Maybe a square mile, something like that. It has these columns of rock, and you can walk around them and through them. And invariably, as children, you can see them as a maze. The movie basically made everybody go there, and now they want to sense or feel if there's this paranormal energy floating about. And there's always stories and rumours afterwards that people go missing or something like that.
Yeah.
But the actual story itself is interesting.
About the girls' school
story, yeah.
I mean, no one proposed the idea that they might have ran away.
Well, they could have just been taken. Part of the sex, that's as simple as that. They just could have been taken.
Abducted, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, guys, if I was a teenager and I wanted to run away and I lived anywhere near a dodgy area where people were, reported to have been kidnapped or something, that's what I would say. I say to my parents, I'm going to kidnap Brooke, but really I'm going the other direction, and then nobody would look for me any further.
Yeah.
The other movie,
really wanted to run away.
Did you ever see Walkabout?
Yes.
That's a neat movie too.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting movie. Australian flick.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of Australian movies when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're interesting. They have a different take, a different character, different feel, different energy, I suppose you get from it.
Laid back.
Yeah, and it tries to emulate the so-called Aussie attitude and lifestyle, So yeah, but then you get what's his name, the actor. He was in Brisbane and he came out of a nightclub or a bar or something, and he bit off somebody's ear. He's had drinking problems, and he has lashed out. This was back in
that was like a thing.
What's his name? Do you remember?
He was also in Crocodile Dundee, I think.
No, that not Crocodile Dundee character. This is he was in the Roman Galactica, I think it was called. Gladiator.
Oh, Russell Crowe.
Oh, Russell Crowe. Okay.
Yeah. Now that is his behaviour in that aggressive way. That's a very true characteristic of a raw Aussie. You will receive in pretty much all over Australia, and they're quite hard individuals, because they are independent and they just don't take any shit. And of course he was confronted at a bar or something, and he bit off his ear. So he just represents. He's Russell Crowe. He's successful as an actor, but at the same time, underlying that, there's that true character that sort of rolling in him.
Yeah, he's a musician too, so he's probably been in some dodgy places.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him when he'd been in Robin Hood, and somebody said to him that that he did a really bad accent. Yeah, said you sounded more Irish than Yorkshire, and he got really pissed off. He's like, "Oh yeah, have you done much acting?" I was like, "Oh, there's a light criticism." That's
not, and it is interesting. It is criticism, but it's what you call a fight to defend yourself against it. Even though you could take it as just joke, it's just having a bit of a jibe. the Aussie in him and the Aussie in me would want to fight that and retaliate, and take it somewhat serious, because you're having a go at me.
Oh yeah, no, he totally took it serious. That's what I'm saying. He didn't take it as a joke. The guy was saying it jokingly, like that's the most Irish sounding Yorkshire guy I've ever heard. And the guy, oh yeah, have you done much acting? He's like, oh,
the old phrasing, Aussie phrase, "Don't come the raw prawn with me."
Yeah.
I mean, it just means don't piss. If you're smiling at me, then you're laughing at me. You're taking the piss, and on that basis, that smile should come off your face.
Do you know, Lindsay, I have to say this though, because I've thought this so many times. The Australians have the strangest expressions like that. Don't come the raw prawn. It's like prawn. It's not the most threatening thing you can hear, is it? Don't come the raw. I mean, I want to chuckle if somebody said that to me.
Well,
There's
another what I find ridiculous phrase as well is when you're found out about something, sort of who did that, if the phrase is, well, you got me, balls out, and the phrase balls out means that my balls are on display now, you've got me, you caught me. My balls are now on display, balls out.
Yeah.
And that's another Aussie phrase that you'll not often hear, but it is said.
Yeah, but things like fair income and
what about Mick? Mick, he's got a knife. That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Exactly.
I saw that when I was a kid, man. That movie is the best representation, I think, one of the best representation of New York City in the 80s.
Yes, absolutely.
They captured a few bars. They filmed part of it in a place called 7B downtown in the village, the east side. And just, that mentality of the 80s in New York City. Yeah. The party that they're at with the cross-dresser when he grabs her crotch, the guy doing coke in the kitchen, and the woman, the female character, she's like, oh, that's cocaine. People snort it to have fun. It was so accepted then.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that when I was in Hong Kong too.
The thing is, he got caught up with that Hollywood lifestyle, and it ruined his personal life. I don't really know much about what happened, but I do know that he ended up divorced. But he didn't treat his wife very nicely because she was seen as perhaps a little plain in look. And
this is Paul Hogan you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He wrote that.
His original job was painting the Sydney Harbour Bridge. He was a painter. That was his original job. And then he got into comedy, and he done a Paul Hogan comedy show, which lasted for many years. It was probably the most popular comedy series around at the time. And then he got into that movie, Crocodile Dundee, and it just exploded. And when it exploded, he left Australia. He just lived in Hollywood, and he just got into the Hollywood lifestyle.
Which is supposed to be very fake.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, you're great, you're the best. And then, people eventually have problems with that because, it seems like nobody's actually being sincere. And that's because nobody is. That's just kind of how people are supposed to be. I know somebody who lives there who said it's a freaking nightmare. She's English. Yeah. It's a nightmare. And you fall in with the people, and you kind of emulate them. It's pervasive. Listen, guys, I want to bring it to something popped into my mind recently, okay? Talking with somebody about the flat earth, who was saying, okay, so when I'm talking to a friend, I don't know what things to give him as reasons why I think the earth is flat, yeah? And he said, and I'm struggling to arrive at any kind of conclusion on why I think the earth is flat, okay? And I said, okay, so the way I'm seeing it is this. Whenever anybody thinks, dude, could the world actually be round, and I'm falling into some kind of delusion where I'm kind of opinion biased to disregarding any globeness, and I'm only seeing flatness, have I got this bias, this unconscious bias where that's all I'm seeing? It's like, if ever anybody thinks that, just take a pause for a second and remember that all of the globeness comes from NASA. Just remember the CGI planet, remember the space missions, remember the CGI satellites, remember all of those are the globeness. Other than that, there's the stars wheeling overhead and the sun and moon. But in terms of any globe, any reasons to think that you're on a globe, there aren't any. They're all things that have been presented to you. There's M. Night Shyamalan did a film called The Village. In the film The Village, they're told the limits of their area is the limits of safety. Outside of that area, there's monsters. And they're told this. And they have somebody playing a monster to reinforce this so that everybody will believe this. So they have somebody persuading them that outside of their familiar ground are monsters. What's really outside of their familiar grounds is the natural, normal world with people going about their business and stuff. But they believe what they've been coaxed to believe. That's the globe. For globelings, they've been coaxed to believing in a globe. And when you look at what there is to support a globe, there isn't anything. There's maths that gets tweaked that has margins of error. For instance, the equinox that we're going to be tracking recently on Tuesday, okay? The equinox, the way that astronomy measures the day and night is not by when the sun is halfway across the horizon at sunset and halfway across the, half of it's peaking up at sunset and same at dawn. That's not how they measure it. They measure one of them when the sun's completely disappeared and the other when the sun's touching, okay? They've got these blurred lines so they can fudge detail. But this is an important thing, and this is specifically about the solar tracking, about the noon tracking. I hope you can see this board behind me, okay? And anybody can check this right now because they do hide things in plain sight, okay? I'm going to do this. And here, in any Gleasons or any globe, there's New Zealand. This is the international date line. Here's the North Pole. The international date line on this side is called Greenwich Mean Time. There's the UK, give or take, okay? And on the Gleasons and on the time and date map, if you make it into a circle, or the day and night map that they have displayed, so any azimuthal display, any globe has New Zealand on this side of the international date line, okay? But going this way from the UK is UTC plus hours. Going that way is UTC minus hours. So the US, New York, will be now UTC minus 4, I think. They just changed the clock, or minus 5. Over here, Thailand is UTC plus 7. Australia is UTC plus 13. If it was here, it would be UTC plus 12. UTC plus 13 for New Zealand is here.
I think Australia is UTC plus 12.
Yeah, wait. In the real world, UTC time and date tell us New Zealand is UTC plus 13,
yes,
which brings it here.
Yes.
Okay. The Gleasons doesn't have it there. The time and date map, when made into an azimuthal display, doesn't have it there. It has it here. Okay.
And what you've
that's where it is. Just that's where it is. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
The last equinox, solar noon in the UK, happened 11 hours before solar noon in Auckland. 2 hours after solar noon in Auckland, it was solar noon in Sydney. Okay, it was actually 2 hours and 10 minutes, something like that. Which means Auckland is here, yes, and Sydney is here.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's at 12. Exactly. It's
Antonio.
Sydney should be right on.
You're not presenting.
The Sydney should be right on the line.
I'm not presenting, did you say? Yes, I am presenting. Yeah. Okay.
I agree. And also, Antonio, I was going to say, the distance is not in the global perspective. The distance is not made by just one line. It's an arc.
Yes, it is. So we have hours established like this with straight lines. Okay. The actual sun arrives like this. It arrives in an arc, which is why places in the south of the UK, the daylight reaches there before other areas in the UK. It arrives in an arc, in a curve like this, and that's how it travels. And it diminishes like that too. It diminishes like this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how it works. Now, this straight line is basically just something inherited from the globe because of the longitude. Okay. But this is the important thing. This is how the real world presents itself. The globe, your globe, Jonathan Vincent, and my globe does not have Sydney, Auckland, New Zealand. It does not have New Zealand here. It has New Zealand here.
Yes.
Okay. And here's here's the thing. One of the things I want to establish most is the layout of South America. I want to know how South America lies, okay? Does it lie this way? Does it lie that way? Now, here's an important thing. When you place New Zealand here, like on the Gleasons or on any globe, the distance between there and Chile is greater by 2,000 miles than its actual location. If it's here, which it is, it's 11 hours after UK, it's here, you've just narrowed the distance to Chile by 2,000 miles. So I want to see how Chile and Argentina is laid. And luckily, we do have somebody in Argentina who's going to join us, who's going to tell us the difference between Sol and Noon in Argentina from Sol and Noon in the UK. If it turns out it's 3 hours, then Argentina's here. If it turns out it's 4, it's there. If it's 5, it's there. If it's 6, it's there. If it's 7. So we're going to establish properly Sol and Noon. Because here's another thing. When it was Sol and Noon here, first we have to establish this. There's sun hours, okay? So Sol and Noon in the UK, 11 hours later, Sol and Noon in Auckland, okay? In Auckland, Sol and Noon happened at 11 a.m. So Auckland time on their watch, it was 11 a.m. In the UK, Sol and Noon was at 1 p.m. This fudging of two numbers of 2 hours, we don't know whether Argentina is at 3 hours different from the UK or if it's 5 hours. We have no way of knowing unless we check with the freaking sun. Jonathan Vincent, you're showing something.
Yeah, that date line. You see what it does right here?
The zigzag?
Yeah, the little zigzag right there. Here's New Zealand.
Yeah.
And this line right here comes off the straight line.
Yep, that's the date line.
That little thing there.
Yeah, well, the dot, the straight line, the dotted straight line, that's the extension of Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's exactly. Okay.
Yeah, but even on that dotted line, New Zealand is on the wrong side of it.
So what you're saying also by showing this map and that dotted line, the red line, is that even though New Zealand may be positioned where it is in this map, the time zones have been adjusted by 2 hours.
Yes, but here's the thing. When you're tracking the sun, you can completely dismiss time zones because you're not marking it on time zones. You're marking it on a stopwatch. You're marking it on a chronograph. So I'll be measuring my Sol and Noon and starting my chronograph. And as time goes on, the next Sol and Noon will be marked in terms of how long since my Sol and Noon. And this is what we did, the other sun tracking on the equinox, which is where we found that New Zealand Sol and Noon and then Australia Sol and Noon was 2 hours later. The person giving us Australia Sol and Noon was a globe link. It wasn't a flat earther, okay? So this is an important thing to know because we're looking at maps. We want to establish the layout of this place because if nothing else, if you're going to teach it to people, it's good if you can tell them, do you know what? Australia from here is in that direction. Like, here's my compass. There's the north, that way to Australia. But if instead you're saying, it's just flaps, doesn't matter which, no, that's wishy-washy and it's crappy and it won't go, it won't wash, it won't work.
So there are two possibilities then, aren't there? Either the time's been deliberately adjusted or the land is not in the positions they claim to be in.
Well, this is the thing, okay?
And it could be a combination of both even.
It is both because like I'm saying, timeanddate.com themselves will tell you the time in New Zealand is UTC plus 13.
Yes.
Okay, which would on an azimuthal display would have it here, but on all the azimuthal displays it's here. Okay, that's not UTC 13. That's UTC 11.
Yes.
Okay, the difference between UTC 11 and 13 is approximately 2,000 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's real distance. Not only that, they know the time. They know how long between Sol and Noon in the UK and Sol and Noon in Australia, Sol and Noon in New Zealand. They know these things. The switching back and forth of times, that's just a side subject, just to try and help, make things confusing for people. But we're working with the real world. We're not working with hypotheticals. We're saying, when is it Sol and Noon here? When is it Sol and Noon here? When is it Sol and Noon there? Like, when does it happen? Not compared to a clock set here or something that's just shifted for daylight saving or anything like that. So this is where New Zealand is in the real world in relationship to the UK.
So what would be really you're doing this fantastic experiment. What would be of added benefit, I suppose, is if you could find extreme locations throughout, like New Zealand, then probably say somewhere in Western Australia, down Albany way, the bottom of Western Australia. Then you've got Argentina, and then you've got probably somewhere up in Russia, or maybe over in Poland near Gdansk, or somewhere around there. So if you find pockets of extreme land continent, that would be fantastic if you could get enough people to be in those locations.
We will. This is the thing that's so good about this. We will have people in these locations. We have somebody in the Arctic Circle, we have somebody who works in the North Pole.
Cool.
So not just Murmansk or Norway. We have somebody further north than that. But we have people, somebody in Murmansk, somebody in Norway. They're going to give us their readings. We have somebody in Argentina. We didn't have anybody last time. Okay. So we have somebody in Brazil. We have somebody in Argentina. When you establish where places are, okay, and this is another thing that I'm going to be looking for. This is the reason Dr. Zach is so focused on the elevation angle. Okay. We think that Argentina is here. What we've had installed in our brains regarding the shape of the Earth as a globe, and that's now being flattened, is this equator and these tropics. Okay. And we're told Argentina is at this location in regards to this tropic. Okay. Well, if you look at the flight that Max Egan took, where he was flying consistently north as he flew east, okay, to go to Santiago de Chile, which is in the same latitude, he should have gone on a flat Earth or on a globe. He should have gone just east, not continuously east and north. If he's gone east and north and landed at somewhere that the globe says is at 32 degrees south latitude, then the shape he's made, sorry, this is now looking scrappy. The shape he's made is this. He has headed further towards what we consider to be the equator. How much by? We don't know, because he didn't take proper records, but it said it was east-northeast. And when he flew from Santiago to Sydney, and he said it was west-southwest. So they're not on the same latitude. Now, if it turns out that Santiago is further north, you have to take the landmass of South America and skew it further this way. And this is what we're going to establish with the tracking. And then I will adjust. In fact, on the day, I'll be adjusting the map as we go along. But that's good, huh? Because when you can get this, that first, and anybody can go and check, because it was COFO72 that gave us the reading for the solar noon in Auckland. You can check, not just on Nathan Oakley's channel at the last sun tracking. It was the first session, by the way, when the person, when he gave us a reading.
Remember that.
But also you can check with time and date. They tell you it's 13 hours ahead of the UK, which places it there. So anybody who says that the Gleason's map is correct, no, it isn't.
No, I agree. Hey, Antonio, have you heard of a filmmaker, Joe Franz?
I'm not sure. What's he made?
He just did there's just a 1960s video to do with flat Earth, and I just thought it'd be interesting to watch.
Oh, really?
I saw it, Lindsay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the guy Joe Franz. He's kind of like a indie, like I want to say guerrilla filmmaker kind of thing. Like he did some of the Jackass stuff with Bam Margera, and he has a video that has a scene in it with a whatchamacallit, the azimuthal equidistant, but not the actual picture. It's got more like the United Nations grid.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody paid him $1,200 to
yes, in a school, in a classroom.
Yeah, I saw the scene. The scene has nothing to do with it, though, and it's barely seen. It's just behind his back. But he does add to the criticism of NASA with the video I think you're going to put on, talking about the kinescope and how he just brings his film knowledge, his knowledge of cameras to what they show us, and it makes sense. You know, he kind of criticizes the NASA stuff, like this is impossible, it doesn't make any sense, and he brings his film skills, his knowledge to it. So I think that's what you're going to put on, right, Lindsay? I
think so. Yeah. Should I play it? I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a quick video.
Okay, we're ready.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome. The following is a segment taken from an interview with American filmmaker Joe Franz, in which he talks about and compares 60s video technology with today's standards. A link to the full interview is in the description.
Hello, I'm Joe Franz, filmmaker and author, and I'm here today to talk to you. If you look at gravity, if Gravity is less on the moon. Why do they move slower? Wouldn't you be able to move faster because your muscles are 50% more effective towards the low gravity? Here's something I'm going to tell you as a video guy. Here's why I believe that the lunar landing was fake. Because there was no way you can have a power source that strong at that time in history, and there's no way you could transmit that video signal all the way to Earth. Absolutely, 100% not. Let me tell you something. I have if I have a handheld video camera and let's say I'm shooting a scene and the producer wants to see what I'm shooting. So they have a transmitter in their hand and they have a battery on my camera. The battery that I have is about the size of a brick. It's more square, but it's about the same mass as a brick. And it only lasts for maybe an hour and a half. And that signal only goes a couple hundred feet. Now you're going to tell me that on that teeny little spaceship with that teeny little camera, they're going to have enough power to transmit a full color video signal all the way down to Earth. And I can also tell you this, that when they promised a full color video signal, the station that broadcasted the lunar landing, they were pissed because they weren't getting raw video feed. What they were getting was called a kinescope. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that was an editing process used up until the late 1990s. And I've actually seen the kinescope technology and utilized it when I worked in a film lab. It's very interesting. Basically, it's an editing tool. So you have a screen, basically it's a television screen, and you shoot that with a film camera. So now it's on 16 millimeter film. So what they did with those videos, in theory, why you see a black and white image of the lunar landing, although they claim the full color videos exist, was what NASA says they did was transmitted the full color video signal, filmed it on a kinescope, black and white, on 16 millimeter film, and then released that to the network. So therefore, it was not a live event because to get film processed, it takes hours, and it's a whole process that generally takes about 6 hours to complete, even with the most efficient film ever. So why would they get this crappy grain black and white film image when they could have broadcast in color, which at the time the networks were pissed that they didn't have the ability to do that. NASA denied it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The whole kinescope thing, that's a side note. My thing is there is no way with that technology, with batteries being as big and as weak and as heavy as they were, you could have broadcast that signal from the moon. Impossible. Impossible.
New Zealand's in the wrong place. Yeah, that was cool. I did see that.
Cool.
That was cool. Hey, I want to say something. I peeked in chat. Hi, everybody in chat. Hope you're all having a good time. And Bob from Globebusters is there. And I don't know who watched or might not have watched Globebusters. They had Chris, Gio, and Cherie. I hope it's Cherie, Gio, from TFR Radio, who were talking about what some people refer to drug-induced visions, what they refer to as natural-induced visions, because it's DMT, it is natural, it is the thing that our brain releases that helps us visualize things when we're dreaming. Anyway, the conversation then went on into talking about karma, karmic events, and very kind of how would you describe it? Very taboo areas of discussion regarding incarnation, regarding things like the Akashic record or karma, predetermination. And Bob was continuously talking, and he kept continuously saying, "Now I'm not endorsing this." He kept qualifying this, and I've noticed he got quite a lot of abuse about him saying some of the things he said, which were basically saying, and Chris Gio was saying also, some of the more kind of sinister things in the world, like, for instance, people who are victims of crime. It could be that the divine consciousness wants to experience what it would be like to suffer a crime and molds itself into the identity that the person who's the victim of the crime considers themselves to be, from this worldview where the one mind fragments itself into all the different minds, and also that one mind would also be the person doing the abusing. So could it not be that people have predetermined, or that part of the id, the id of the divine creator encapsulates itself to experience something without having thoughts of good or evil, just in terms of just experience? And Bob was voicing possibilities just for thought. And what I found was that a lot of people were very resistant to those things being spoken about. And I want to say to anybody who might be listening to this or might listen to this subsequently after it's aired, if you can't speak about things that are uncomfortable for people to contemplate, then you can't progress as a being. Your society can't progress, because we have to think of this. There will have been a point where people were building houses out of wood and some people were proposing to build houses out of brick, and the people who were dedicated to wood house building would have been opposed to it and would not have wanted to hear about brick and cement. And this is a very concrete, no pun intended, analogy. If you can't discuss ideas that are uncomfortable for people, that are unpalatable, if you can't hear notions, ideas, discussions, arguments that don't sit well with you, if you have to shut that down, then what you're doing is you're engaging in the shutting down of the evolution of human consciousness. Now, earlier we were talking about how the patent for a flying levitation device was turned down because it was not conventional science. That's what that patent clerk was doing. He was shutting something down because it was unpalatable to the conventional scientist. And it's important for any organization, society, people, individual who considers themselves a progressive or at least an evolving and growing being. It's important for them to contemplate ideas. It doesn't mean you're going to suddenly be overwhelmed with the urge to become a criminal, okay? Or overwhelmed with the urge to find pity for the criminal, okay? It means you're studying a subject that has to be studied. Otherwise, it won't be understood and it won't be fixed. Right now, we have psychologists in the world who are trying to figure out why pedophiles are pedophiles. What is it that causes them to do this? They've arrived at all kinds of conclusions which are legitimate, and the reason they're doing this is so they can find the avenues for circumventing that behavior. It's not so that they can just sell a book or something. It's not so they can work out a framework for writing legislation to make pedophilia legal or to make people give a kind of tolerance, lower the tolerance, increase the tolerance in people for that kind of behavior. No, it's so they can fix it, okay? So for anybody...
There are people out there who are pushing for...
Yes, there are people out there who are pushing for the lowering of the age of consent. Absolutely. There's always going to be people pushing for all kinds of stuff. Always. There always has been, okay? But the rest of the world is like, no, that's not going to happen. And you can push for whatever you want, but it's not going to happen. So where people are discussing a topic that is unpalatable for you, for anybody, if your tendency is to not listen to it because you think that listening to it is going to harm you, then please go and listen to Jordan Peterson explain how, unless you realize that the monsters who are humans, the mass murderers, how those humans are humans committing those murders, and how every human has the potential for that, unless you realize that you have the potential for the most heinous things, you won't realize what stops you from following those inclinations. You won't realize what it is that those people have lacking that caused them to follow those inclinations and end up being a mass murderer. So you won't be able to put systems in place either at an educational level or a societal level. We all self-police each other. So it's important for people to be able to engage with this. And also it's important for people to be able to say that when I was listening to it, it wasn't comfortable, but I was actually thinking, damn, Bob. I was thinking, please stop categorizing this as saying, I'm not endorsing this. I'm not saying, no, he said that at the start. He should have been able, and he was doing it because he knows that people listening are going to be thinking, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. Okay. We should live in a society where people can say, look, dude, maybe what happens is blah, 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 without people saying, oh my God, can't believe he said blah, 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 blah. It's like, you have to be able to let people talk freely, not control and not shut down dialogue. It's important, you know. I myself think a lot of the talk, if it's not verifiable, it doesn't matter if it comes from a drug-induced vision or from a completely natural vision. It's not until the fullness of time that anybody's going to know whether that was legitimate or not. To set anything up as if it was legitimate, yeah, each to their own. But I did definitely take objection with the subjective truth thing, because that's bullshit, and it's demonstrably bullshit. Because if subjective truth is truth, and this wasn't Bob, this was Chris Geo that was saying this, if truth is subjective truth and reality is subjective reality, then there isn't any such thing as truth. And the truth of the matter is subjective reality and subjective truth are only a portion of what's called truth and reality. Those things are standalone concrete terms. They don't need qualifiers.
Antonio, could I just add something to that? Because I thought what Bob was doing was talking about was great. He was offering a counterpoint to what everybody else was saying, which is necessary in a discussion, or else you got 5 people agreeing with each other, which is boring. It's not interesting to listen to. The topic that came up, that was one that was, I guess, debatable, but I think he was misread on, was when he was telling Jaron that that's your moral compass and it can't be everyone's. You know, that's what you think, and that element right there of what's wrong. It came down to what's right and what's wrong. And my idea, like when I was listening to this, I came up with, because nobody could really distinguish it. I think somebody was saying that, Bob might have been saying that if they think it's right, hurting people is right, then technically in their minds, it's okay for them. But what I wanted to bring to that was, if you do something, if that person goes and hurts, if someone loves to hurt people, yeah, they're feeling love towards doing that, but that can't be reciprocated back to them. So where's the line drawn between right and wrong? And it's got to be, if the other person doesn't enjoy what's being done to them, then it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, is this right or wrong? Well, that child's not going to enjoy what's being done to them. That's the signifying.
Well, this is part of this. 1 second, Lindsay. This is part of what Bob was saying about the moral compass. If your moral compass says what is right or what is wrong is determined based on whether or not the recipient enjoys it, that's how your moral compass is set. If somebody's moral compass is set to what is right as what is wrong is whether I enjoy it, doesn't matter what the other person feels. My moral compass says if I enjoy it, then it's good. And yeah, it's tricky. This is tricky ground. Well, but this on one of the things that was making me
add in one little thing.
1 second, Lindsay.
Go for it.
One of the things that was making me really think, ooh, this is very dodgy ground, is that where you have that kind of discussion on the back of simulation hypothesis or a matrix or illusion discussion, then that idea leans your compass towards saying the only truth is mine. So I can without any qualm dismiss the reaction of the person who seems to be displaying lack of enjoyment, because it's my experience that's the only experience I can guarantee is true. So that's a setting for a moral compass. And it comes on the back of the whole simulation hypothesis and simulation theory and all of that, which is based on a belief. And like I made a video recently on the Gates, the guy who developed the hypothesis, he blatantly states that if you believe it, then I can show it to you. It's like, yeah, you can. Like he does. He genuinely says that. If you believe it, then I can show it to you. So, oh, okay. Well, if it should be the other way around, it should be there's something I can show you that will cause you to believe in it. Not I'm going to tell you something. If you believe it, then I'm going to show you. It's like, hello, this is how hypnosis works. That is literally how hypnosis works. Yeah, listen to me for some time and then respond the way I'm telling you you're going to respond. You know, oh, this is a lovely juicy onion I'm eating that tastes just like an apple, you know? So, but yeah, with the simulation theory and the discussion of the metaphysical qualities of existence, you know we have question marks there.
Before you move on to add something more, I just wanted to interject and sort of comment on both of what you're referring to in meaning natural law, or understanding the definition of natural law, what it actually means. Without actually understanding what natural law is, it's hard to define. But by understanding what natural law is, it is definable, and therefore it's reality. Now, if it's reality, one of the things about natural law is understanding that you as a sovereign individual, one of the moral, and it's not a moral, it's a natural law, shall do no harm to any other life form. Doesn't matter whether it's a human or whether it's an animal, or even to that degree if it's a plant. So you don't emit energy to actually cause harm to any other individual. That's one of the natural laws.
Yeah.
What you refer to as your compass, by definition, it is your inner sense of what you perceive, what you're feeling, is what you're doing is actually right or wrong. In other words, right or wrong does exist. Now, if the individual is perceiving what they're doing, to them, they perceive it as doing right, and yet from a natural law perspective and from a natural law reality, they're not doing right, they're actually doing wrong, then the person who is doing the action is actually deformed reality. A narrative to fit their agenda, to fit their own personal perceptions on what is reality. It is warped, it's not real. It is a false reality that they exist in. Observers looking at anything that you observe, other actions of other individuals performing anything, whether it be a dialogue between two individuals, or whether it be a fight that you might see, or whether it be a battle, or whether it be a tournament, a sport activity, any of these things. If you are observing somebody doing wrong in that action by cheating or by taking advantage of someone weaker, all these sorts of things, your perception is based on reality of natural law. And you can see this inner instinct saying that's wrong or that's right. And so that definition, if you're looking at something and you're watching somebody mutilate another individual, for example, and your senses say, oh, that's right, that's how it should be. And you're saying, like the rest of humanity, they can go out and eat an animal because they didn't kill it. But the link to how that animal was brought up was brutal. They lived a brutal life. And the individuals that have this perception in their minds that what they're doing is right by farming these animals, they're actually warped reality. It is wrong. And that's the finite definition of what is real, what is right under natural law. The definition of natural law is really what the source of humans should function as a base from within. You know, that's their foundation. And so if you're creating an illusion that goes against that natural law, and your belief system is driven to you to allow slaughtering of animals or killing other people or being narcissistic and doing deliberate damage to other individuals, you are doing wrong under natural law. It is not right to do that. So humanity is diseased and corrupted with all sorts of different perceptions. And unlike the majority of humans, they should fall back to natural law. That's their base.
I've been wanting to engage in this kind of discussion for ages. In fact, listening to Globebusters made me think, damn it, I really want to discuss this, which is veganism. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Okay. If you will play the vegan advocate.
Well, I'm not a vegan.
I know, but you know the vegan argument, and I know the vegan argument, you know.
I'm a paleo vegetarian.
Okay. But so this, from the situation that we have now, because we can't teleport or time travel into the past and stop the farming of animals, you know, we have to proceed from now. That's the only available scenario we have.
The only thing I can suggest to that is to understand how the industry of farming animals truly began and the purpose behind it.
Okay, but wait.
That is an industry that started, as you say, thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Years ago.
And it started from scarcity as well.
Yeah.
So let me put my case forward, and then, because my case is a big question.
Yeah, no problem.
How do we transition from the state that we're in now to the state where there is no longer any farming of animal and all humans get fed? What happens to the animals right now? Let's say there was a new law. Let's say an alien race came and said, right, that's it. No more eating of animals. Okay.
I've got an answer for that.
Go on.
Okay. So just to understand a couple of things first, there is a life cycle of every animal. Some last 5 years, some last a couple of years, some last 15 years maybe. There is a natural aging of these animals. If you create a rule that is all of a sudden done overnight, one of the rules that you would then have is a period of feeding out and then a period of feeding in. So you would have this momentum, and maybe you could plan it for a 20-year period. And in that period, you would fade out and allow the animals to die naturally. And you would support this and fund this because this was a project to allow the animals to live the rest of their life in their environment that they are currently in. So I'm not suggesting, though, that they stay imprisoned or they stay tortured in pens and all that, but there would be enough land to allow these animals to live their natural life until they die. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is the feeding out and the feeding in. So of course, as these animals start to fade away, die, you're replanting new crops, new plants for the new industry of feeding humanity. And the method of feeding humanity is for humanity to understand that part of their existence, part of their actual living is actually better off without eating animals. By eating animals, it distorts your avatar, the energies within your body. And that distorts the way you think. And that also distorts the way you feel. And it also distorts your appreciation for things. And so therefore you end up experiencing things that are more mentally driven because you lose the disconnection to certain reality. So animal eating actually encourages a disformation of your perceptions of reality. That's part of what it will do.
Yes, so this is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
If you try to imagine that you could see clearly, so remove the animal toxins and the after effects, all the different ramifications of consuming any animal product and any other pollutants. Okay, so you can see clearly the transition. So you would widen the pens for the creatures. Yeah, it was not fair to just leave them where they are now. But you would widen the pens. You would carry on producing food for them to consume whilst they naturally died out or naturally fell into a natural reproductive cycle, which would be one for every 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's not one every year that's born with calves. That's just not how it happens. They don't have a cow won't have a calf every year, you know.
Well, you're not allowing the animals to. You're controlling the breeding. I'm not saying.
No, what I'm saying is you don't control the breeding. You open the pens and you allow the animals to fall into a natural state where they breed according to how they breed, how they choose to breed and who they choose to breed with, and fall into their natural state of being in a natural landscape for them. But until you reach the point that they've reached this natural state, which would have to be one that's in balance with nature, and cows are roaming creatures that move, that have large swathes. You know, we always think of them because they're low, you know, looking bored in a field. No, if there weren't any walls, they would walk, big areas.
Okay, I can see a description, an image of what I perceive as an unreal reality, a possibility, and because for me,
you're presenting Lindsay, by the way.
That's okay.
Because it's something that you don't necessarily. For me, I look at that as an unreal perception of how to manage a transformation of such a wide industry. I mean,
yeah. So what would your more natural?
what I'm trying to get at is that to me is not necessarily a realistic description of this is what it could be like. Yes, there's a fantasy of that, so to speak, but
so this is what I'm saying. What would be, in your opinion, a realistic?
Well, yeah, and what I'm okay. It's fair to say that if you have animals leaving gates open in farms and all this sort of stuff, no indifferent to say the Indians, they cherish the cows, and the cows roam all over the place. Now, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, that's the way that their culture is, and that's what they choose to do. But in countries that are experiencing or don't experience that on a day-to-day basis, it would be counterproductive to envisage even these gates being left open. You got people in coloured hairs, and they're running down the streets. Open the gates, let them free and wild. I mean, this is new age bullshit kind of.
Yeah, because they're just going to get run over at the nearest motorway.
It's just a joke to even think that would even be contemplated. If somebody was sitting down and saying, look, we've got to do something about this meat industry because we understand that this is preventing humanity from expanding their own consciousness. So if we continue this, we continue it by injecting various vaccines and hormones into the animal, so that way it'll infect humanity, and then they'll become even more affected by this mental illusion that they're fixed in, that they believe is real, and they won't even desire to expand their consciousness. They'll laugh at people who want to do that. They'll look at the reality that they're in and go, I just want to eat more meat. Give me chicken.
What will happen is if they develop a little bit more consciousness, they'll start to see some of the horror, and they'll want to be numbed from that horror. So they'll want to shy away from the new consciousness.
So what I'm trying to get at here is that there are two realities that I see. One is it would be nigh impossible for any government en masse to turn around and say we're going to stop the meat industry, we're going to stop the farming live animal industry completely. I mean, for a start, even if some freakish third dimensional, fifth dimensional alien presented themselves and said this is a new command, it would create all sorts of havoc. It just wouldn't be functional.
But wait a second. The alien that I'm promoting here is a three-dimensional alien, a real flesh and
okay. Yeah. So the other side of it is, outside of the sort of alien invasion concept, that's not going to happen. So the other side of it is what is an experience of an individual. They need to have that experience in order to come or draw to that conclusion. But let me say this: when you're a drinker and you're halfway drunk and you're laughing and you're giggling and you're enjoying the social outing, do you want to just stop and walk out the door and leave everybody behind and go home and think, oh, that was a lovely evening?
Yes.
Or do you want to kick on and stay on for a few more hours and tell your mates that you love them and laugh at them and maybe even have a fight, do whatever, and you've had a good evening?
I'm not going for a drink with you, man. No chance.
All I'm saying is that it is very, very likely that the individual who is drugged up with whatever drugs that they're fixated in, they'll want to continue that journey. So if you're consuming meat and you love the culture of it and you socialize with others who do it and you mimic each other's behavior by celebrating eating meat, and damn the consequences, because meat is my choice and therefore I have the right, and I don't care about the consequences or the context that all of that comes from, because I'm on a high and my high is eating the meat. This is my lust, and it becomes a fixation until the individual, like the flat earther and the global header, until the global header decides to turn their head and focus, they will see flat earth as bullshit.
Okay, so
the meat eater turns their head and focus, they will discount all the bullshit as bullshit and they'll eat meat until they die.
Okay,
that.
So I'm going to answer the question. How does it go from the state of having a cattle-fed population with the suffering that goes with it, to both the cattle and the population, even if the population doesn't know it, to a state where that's no longer the case? My answer would be, if we try to think of how this could be forced onto the meat industry, then we're going to have problems, because we're going to want an advanced and accelerated ending of it with cows roaming on motorways and all kinds of stuff. It's not going to happen. But if we think long term, if we think of maybe a period of 100 years where every individual just starts to consume less and less and less meat, to the point where they no longer consume any meat, then the meat industry is going to see the same as McDonald's have seen, which is restaurants closing because less people are engaging. There's less supply and demand. There's less demand, so the supply has to drop. And that is a natural way. It would give enough time for the meat industry to balance itself out, as much as we might detest it, to the point where it can convert into farming of arable crop and other foods that are good for humans.
So
it comes to personal responsibility.
Exactly. And what you've just described, Antonio, are consequences of individuals turning their head, taking notice, focusing, and realizing that they've got to get off the drug. And all of a sudden, they take the steps to do so. This is the thought becomes only reality when they take action. And if you're in this drug state, you can't think. And because you can't think, you don't want to know. And you'll just continue to eat it. So what I'm saying to you is that it is a gradual thing where one person like me realizes meat is cancer. Meat is just toxic. It's just horrible, regardless of what they do to the animals when they're breeding. That's another issue aside. That the meat itself is toxic. It is not healthy for you to eat any of that meat. There's more protein in vegetables than there are in meat anyway.
I find it interesting. No one that eats meat would ever want to see something being butchered.
Exactly.
You know, show them a video and they're like, oh, that's gross. But you're eating.
You know, the thing that persuades me the most to thoughts of veganism, again, even though I lost so much weight and it was a pain in the backside, I don't like being skinny. It's not nice for me, you know? When you walk through the streets and you can hear whistling all the time and it's your legs through the wind, it's crap, right? But, okay. When I think of consuming less meat and to the point of not consuming any, I'm going to give this as advice to anybody out there. It's so much better if you don't tell people that you're doing it. If you don't tell people, oh no, I'm vegan. If instead you just have the broccoli and the carrots and the potatoes and say, no, I don't feel like meat today.
I want to say this right now. By not eating meat does not define that person as being vegan. And it also doesn't mean they're vegetarian. It only is a label. In reality, what you're doing is you're reducing the food that is toxic to you, meaning the avatar, your body. And the things that are in the list of things that are toxic are not just don't stop at meat. It stops at processed food. It stops at all the junk and biscuits and full of false sugars and salts and all this that are not very healthy for your body. And it's dead food. It does nothing to your digestion. It does nothing for you. You know, it doesn't help you at all. You stay alive because you're burning up that bloody sugar and energy. It's not nutritious. It doesn't help your body.
Lindsay, I have a theory that what they should have proposed, what the government should have proposed a long time ago is a war, instead of a war on drugs, a war on food, you know, because that's really killing everybody. I think the war on drugs is a distraction.
Oh, absolutely. But they're the drug traffickers themselves.
Say that again?
They are the drug traffickers themselves.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like what we eat is pretty much going to hurt us a lot more than any drug would. You know, I know someone who's been a heroin user for 6 years, feeling fine.
How many years?
6 years.
6?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he always looks good, and you know, I probably shouldn't mention too much about him. I just thought that you said 60 years. If it was 60 years, then it's
someone like him is also likely to get good quality heroin as well. Which, if you're getting high grade heroin, I'm not supporting heroinism or taking heroin, by the way, but I understand a little bit about what the drug. The effects it has, because I had a girlfriend whose brother was a heroin addict for a number of years, and he told me a lot about it, like you're saying. And part of the thing that he's referring to is that if you are getting pure heroin, it's nowhere near as addictive, so to speak, as it is if you're getting the mixed grade street kind of style heroin,
right?
Which is really part of the destruction of your living cells. It causes so much damage.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who wants to know more about heroin, there's a lovely film out there. It's called Requiem for a Dream. Lovely. Watch that film and then consider heroin.
And
That should have been the PSA.
We don't promote that kind of drug. Heroin is just,
It's too addictive.
It's for dreamers. It's for dreamers. Heroin.
One of the pharmacists, my ex-father-in-law was a pharmacist, and he basically studies little history, and he was saying one of the things that was interesting when heroin was legal, and it was opium at the time, you could actually get it over the pharmaceutical, over the counter. You're allowed to buy it without a prescription or anything. It was legal. So,
and there wasn't any big drug problem.
No, and the reason was not only was this recreational, but it was also medical, and so there were users of heroin. And so, what's his name? Sherlock Holmes was supposed to be a heroin user because it cleared your thoughts. It created you to have patterns of logical thinking. It encouraged opened your mind to various things. So a lot of people did it for those reasons. However, that's not to say that the heroin that you're now taking or injecting is not now contaminated with the same bullshit they contaminate animals with, and the same stuff that Monsanto is trying to inject into the food industry, and the same toxic food and additives and preservatives they put into all processed foods. And one of the biggest problems with America in food industry I relate to is that all the fructose, the corn syrup, is just in about nearly 100% of all processed foods that contain sugar. It's no longer sugar, it's corn syrup.
Yeah.
They even feed corn syrup to 3.5-month-old babies with baby sauce, the apple sauce or whatever other sauces they serve up. It's got sugar in it, but it's corn syrup.
Sorry, I just want to point something out. I'm looking at chat. Flat Forest. Glad I'm taking MMS now into day 14. Hey, well done to you, Flat Forest.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah, cool. MMS people, simple, not so unpleasant. If you watch people talking about it, they might talk about it being unpleasant. It's not that unpleasant at all. Whiskey is a hell of a lot more unpleasant, So, but yeah, no, MMS is.
I think you're tougher than you. Yeah, you Antonio. You got true grit in you, because it does have an effect on me. I can tolerate it, and it's not as bad as. But every now and then I do get a whiff, and it just got to go. Whoa, that's not nice.
Do you know I had a tickly cough? Okay. By the way, if people hear me cough, it's because where I live is a bit damp. Okay. When I go to Spain, boom, gone straight away. But anyway, I had a bit of a cough coming, so I made some. Where you make the higher concentration for topical use. Yeah. So I made it, and I'm inhaling like that, and I'm suppressing the urge to cough. But it was gone. Like the cough was gone.
Wow, brilliant.
That was it. One session. And my ex burnt herself with some boiling water. Okay. This was was it yesterday? The day before yesterday. Okay. I said, use it on yourself. She said, I don't know. She used it, and we're chatting. She's making a cup of tea. And actually, my hand's feeling better. I said, just carry on using it. I had the girls, I dropped them off. I said, how's your hand? She said, do you know what? It's really good. I got Niall, her boyfriend. He had really bad skin problems with his hands, and he'd been on steroids. His hands were cracking up and getting infected, and he started using it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how, because when I gave it I made it for them, for him, because he was having to go to the doctors and everything. His hands were cracking open and bleeding. So he'd just been to the doctors and got a course of antibiotics. So he said, well, I'm going to do the antibiotic. They only got worse. Okay. So now he started using it. If it turns out that he's using it and it heals his hands, I'll report it. I'll let everybody know.
Describe what it was, Antonio.
He has allergies. Okay. And he's an engineer. So he works out, he's a bridge builder. He builds bridges and big structures. Okay. He's the boss of the guys building everything. So, but sometimes he has to deal. He's around concrete, obviously, and he reacts to it really badly, even if he's not mixing it. So he just started reacting.
Have you got mold anywhere in your place?
Yes, in the bathroom.
So what I'm saying is that the spores, the mold grows. So if you put MMS in a sprayer, the mold will die.
Yes, I did that. In my bathroom. Yes, MMS people, look into it. It's so easy. What you want to do, if before anybody considers MMS, watch the MMS documentary that I linked point when we were first talking about MMS, or do a search MMS and the Red Cross. You'll find a documentary. It's only about 20 minutes long. Just watch that. And if you're not persuaded, then don't bother looking into it further. Okay? Because what you'll find when you watch this is that a clinical trial was run in Africa. The village had 192 people, I think it was, with malaria. They'd been called there by the person in charge of the waterworks, so fresh water and sewage. The person in charge of the waterworks for that region contacted the MMS guys. The MMS guys went there. The guy from the waterworks also contacted the Red Cross, telling them they were going to do this. The Red Cross went there. The Red Cross were doing the diagnosing by taking blood samples and using old-fashioned science, looking through a microscope for the parasite that's the bacterium of malaria.
And somebody was documenting the documentary.
They were making a video of it. Afterwards, every single person with one treatment, everybody who had malaria, bar one person, was cured the very next day. They no longer had malaria. The one person that still had malaria had a very high level of malaria when they received the treatment. They received a second treatment, and on the subsequent day, on the following day, they too were cured. So out of 192 people with malaria, 192 were cured. This is usually 192 people that would have died. Okay, we have to remember that. So the Red Cross said they were going to publish a paper on it. The guy from the waterworks said he was going to communicate with the MMS guys. Eventually, the Red Cross didn't publish the papers. The waterworks guys said, I don't know anything about this, don't know what you're talking about. The MMS guy said, come on guys, how can you keep this quiet? In the meantime, in that country, I forget which one it was, maybe Ghana, I forget which country. Anyway, the pharmaceutical companies went into the hospitals that were storing MMS and using it to treat people, which they started doing between the time that the Red Cross people found this out. Obviously, they all spoke to everybody that they knew. They started using. The pharmaceutical companies went into the hospitals and said, basically checked and said, if you carry on using and purchasing MMS, we will withdraw all our medication. If I was a hospital, I would have said, well, fuck you then. Okay. But they didn't. Okay. So the documentary that was filmed of this study was released, proving that the waterworks guy had been engaged in it because he was interviewed for it, and proving that he just totally denied having anything to do with them. The Red Cross people were real Red Cross people. Now, if you don't know this, in Africa, costume, your dress, your apparel is a symbol. It's used symbolically, okay? You don't get people who don't work for the Red Cross dressing with Red Cross because they would probably get freaking lynched.
And what were they reporting on the video? What were they confirming?
Yes. Verbally confirming it. You can see the documents, the Red Cross documents, the Red Cross folders, the files, everything. Now, when you watch that brief documentary exposing how the Red Cross turned its back and how the waterworks guy turned its back, which means the Minister for Health for that nation turned its back, then you might be more prompted to go and purchase some. And when people ask, loads of people have said to me, where can I get some? Where can I get some? I've said to them, look, if you can see anybody who's selling it, then that person knows what they're doing. They're not going to be scamming you because it's cheap. If somebody's going to scam you, they're not going to scam you with MMS. They're going to scam you with freaking cannabis oil or something like that costs a fortune. They're not going to scam you for 20 quid. So if they're selling MMS, if they tell you if they sell it as just an MMS bottle, then don't bother because you have to buy citric acid. So if you find there's MMS and citric acid, then you're fine. Buy it. Don't worry about it. Trust a bit more. That's what I say.
Very good.
And I would like to say personal thank you to Lindsay, because it was Lindsay who first told me about it back in Oxford, and I was like, what the hell is this? Yeah, like, I want to know more about this. And
Lindsay.
Just one second. And then Lindsay sent me some MMS, which was very kind of him. It was cool.
Cool. And it lasts a long time as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
You can only use and drop.
Yeah.
I was going to say something easier for, first of all, rock vibrations.
Yeah.
Wanted to know if it's good for skin.
Yes.
Yes.
Before you answer that, I got this at Trader Joe's. It's coconut oil.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it.
It's not really oil. It's kind of like a paste.
Like
Yeah.
a butter.
Kind of like it almost like a soft candle.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Yeah.
That's how coconut oil should be at room temperature. Not
Right.
running.
Yeah, and like this stuff is great for. I had like I don't know what it was, just like a patch of dry skin like right over here, and I was putting that on, and it's gone away. Something that was reoccurring, had nothing to do with the weather, moisture, or dryness or anything like that, and it works like it's like $5 a jar.
If you have 2 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, it cleans your internals out.
I got to try that. I haven't gone that route, but
You can also get rid of a lot of toxins by they call it oil pulling, which is basically a tablespoonful, and you swill it in your mouth for 20 minutes.
I got really nasty. See, phlegm really bothers me.
Yeah.
And mucus and stuff like that.
It's
So the idea
gross. It's horrible doing it. It's not an easy thing to do. 20 minutes is boring for one thing. You keep thinking, man, how slow is my watch ticking?
Another way of using it is try putting bicarbonate soda. Yeah, you know what bicarbonate soda is for cooking.
Yeah, baking soda.
So, baking soda's got other stuff in it. So bicarbonate soda on its own, just bicarbonate soda, because baking soda has bicarbonate soda and something else in it. So bicarbonate soda on its own. Anyway, you get like you did with the jar of coconut oil, get your toothbrush, scrape some of the coconut oil onto your toothbrush, and then dip it into the bicarbonate soda and brush your teeth with that. And pretty much for most of the day, you won't get any residue on your teeth. They'll stay smoothly clean all the day. And the reason is the molecules of the coconut oil are so small, they get into the crevices of your teeth, and it pushes out any bacteria that are growing there. It sort of nullifies it. And the bicarbonate soda has an added benefit of cleansing your mouth. So you brush your teeth with that. It's neutral flavor. You don't taste it. You don't notice it, when you brush it. So it's like toothpaste. You just brush your teeth and then you just rinse your mouth normally. And that to me, I always brush my tongue, by the way, but that doesn't matter. But that always just cleans your mouth out. And then what I do with MMS, I just put a couple of drops, 2 or 3 after I've brushed my teeth, 2 or 3 drops on my toothbrush, brush my teeth again and rinse it out. Just put the MMS in my mouth. But the coconut oil with bicarbonate soda really, really does a good job.
And by the way, for people who might think, but MMS might be a bit strong, I've been using MMS drops in my eyes, and it's the potent mix, the one for topical use. That's what I've been putting in my eyes. It stings for a second, and then your eyes feel great. Yeah. So, but yeah, for rock vibrations, MMS is very good. If you've got skin conditions, all kinds of skin conditions, all of the skin conditions, including skin cancer, it will fit. If you've got a skin condition where it's lack of moisture, then coconut oil.
Yes, and it's worth noting that MMS, well, you've got to remember this, MMS is inert within an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's no longer active, and it no longer has an effect on your external body or your internal. But the effects it had on your external body whilst it's active, meaning that it will, so if you've got burns or abrasions or anything on your outer body, rub MMS on it, and it really does work.
I wanted to add, I asked in the chat if anyone suffered from sciatica, which is that sciatic nerve from the one that it goes down from, like, I think your spinal cord all the way down to your foot.
Yeah.
I was getting a pain, like pain in the ass, so to speak. And it hurt, or it was like a twisting pain, like an internal pain, not an external kind of skin issue, where whenever I got up from sitting down, it felt like somebody was like giving you a noogie, like a real pinch or a twist in like that butt muscle.
On the inside.
And I tried a few different things. One, which is if you sit down on like a coffee table, for instance, or a bed, like or like a weight bench or something like that, you extend one foot out while keeping your back really straight, and you feel that nerve. It pinpoints exactly where it is, and it stretches it out. And if you slowly do that, the idea is to equalize it, because you're getting too much on one side. The other thing is you can get someone else, a second person, to massage the back part of your the back side of your thigh up and down with like one of those spiky balls, or you can do it yourself. This started getting worse and worse, and I've never had any kind of afflictions. I've always been pretty healthy, and I was like, how bad is this going to get before I need to actually like do something? And why, what am I going to do? Get surgery? I'm not going to get surgery or anything. So I have my,
Yeah, I was going about your back. I had what I call a moment, which is when I get a twang in my back.
Oh yeah, how is that?
Yeah, it's healing. It's a lot better now. You know, I'm not getting any more pain.
I got rid of it. I got rid of the sciatica.
Well, yeah.
I don't know how I did it. It was just one day I noticed, I was like, I don't have any more pain.
Yeah,
like it was really bad, and then one day it stopped.
Yeah. What I was going to say, sometimes the pain, even though it's registering in your back, it actually, the source of it is either down underneath your leg somewhere, or it's underneath your knee, or it's, or it's in your shoulder, or it's in your neck, and it's pulling, it's connected all down to that point of your back. So if you're massaging the lower part of your back, you may not be massaging the actual where the source of the pull is coming from, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I stopped doing the exercises, and because I didn't really, it was temporary healing. It was like there, and then it felt a little bit better. But every morning I take the first, and I don't want to gross everyone out, but this is my favorite therapy, because we produce our own urine, and every morning the first wee of the morning, I have a Dixie cup in the bathroom, and just midstream catch it and shoot it, and then it just went away, and I just kept at this. And I was like, well, why isn't it instantly healing like the internet told me, and I've told other people? But it went away, and one day it was just gone, and I didn't do that much to do it. And I think that's a testament to urine therapy.
This is the interesting thing about urine therapy. I've done a little bit of research into this, and because I was interested in understanding what you need in your body to exist and function optimally. And urine therapy was always one of those things that doesn't necessarily appeal to me. And as a result, we went on what was the place we went to? We went to repeat the Bedford experiment, and we camped out. Antonio was there, and there was a lady there, and she was opening up about her urine drinking, and she was referring to, as you can get a glass of it and drink it, and you wash yourself in it, you bathe it. And then she said you can even wash your feet in it. It'll get rid of all your fungi if you've got tetanus or anything like that. If you've got skin lesions, you rub it on your arm and it'll fix it.
Nerve compression.
And say, feel my skin, feel how soft it is, and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, sure enough, she was glowing, literally, and but still I had this inner resistance. I'm still trying to figure out if it works. So
it's because she smelled so awful.
Well, I stood in the bath.
I'm joking. She didn't smell awful at all.
I stood in the bath ready to have a shower, and I thought, well, I might try it. So I peed on my feet to see, how I would feel about it. You know what I mean? And I must admit, peeing on my feet and then rubbing my feet together to sort of rub it in and wash it in a bit, I was very, very keen to have a shower very quickly. It's just like you've just decided to make this, and I don't know what your first dose, this first shot, you said, well, I'm going to give this a go. I'm just going to do it. Tell me about that experience. I would have been fascinated how you felt about that.
I got, I was listening to Dave Murphy talk. It was a conversation or a hangout with Robert Shortman, Antonio, and Joey Rocha from Hawaii. They were all talking about colloidal silver and alternative therapy and stuff like that. And then Dave Murphy comes on. he just brushes aside everything they were talking about for like an hour, and was like, oh, well, I don't need any of that. I'll just drink my own wee. And I was like, what? Is that true? And, just like Flat Earth, I was like, it sounds so absurd. It's got to be right. There's got to be something to it.
And there is something.
There's also this. Okay, Lindsay, you met Dave, didn't you?
Yes.
At the Bedford level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The guy is a strong guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Like you might picture some weedy little black dude. No, he's a handy, chunky, meaty, strong black guy.
Yeah, he's solid. Absolutely.
And he's also got a really, really expansive vibe.
Yes.
You feel like you're around goodness,
Yeah, his energy level is very, very positive, very, very outward, very assertive, and you can just sense there's a glow within him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was describing some of the methods of how you could use urine therapy, and I had always said my whole life I had a joke like with friends if we were like walking home from school and we saw something nasty on the street, like whether it was like an animal that had died, I'd be like, I bet you that's the cure for cancer right there, or like dog shit or something like that, something nasty, be like, I bet you that's the cure for cancer right there. So I took that and was like, you know what? That we produce it. It's distilled because the human body is a distiller, and it's almost I want to say distilled water is almost the closest thing you can get, probably the closest thing you can get to it. But I tried it for my feet. I had like nerve compression, and it was because I was constantly working on concrete on a hard surface, point where I couldn't feel the skin on my feet. So I peed into like a Tupperware, which I eat out of all the time now. No, I'm not like kidding. I just peed into it. It was like about an inch of it there, and put my feet into it, and just kind of like let them sit there for like 10 minutes before a shower, and then come out of it. And I'm talking 15 minutes of doing this. 15 minutes later, the softness had returned, not fully, back to my skin. I was like, no way, that's crazy. And the main thing is the yuck factor. We're so taught and programmed to think that it's a toxin.
Yeah, it's called revulsion, and it's actually a taught state of reaction. It's not natural. It isn't natural to have a sense of revulsion.
Yes, it's taught to children, like babies and toddlers. They don't have it.
No,
you know,
they don't have it.
It's something that we teach children with. Usually, we teach them with facial gestures at first. You know, it's like and we do these sounds, and that's how we indoctrinate children to finding repulsive whatever it is that we find repulsive. But if you think about it, guys, we've all sat at some point. We sat next to an old street person that smells of urine. You know, I can't be the only one that sat next to this street beggar person that smells of urine, and it's kind of, you associate it with the homelessness, with failure, with all of that. But then when you find out that this guy's 500 years old, then you know you start looking at it differently. True story.
Yeah, and when it goes clear, when your body's filtering it out and it goes clear, because you know your kidneys clean your blood. Basically, urine's almost like blood, I want to say.
Yeah.
But it's a different liquid. You know, it's purified blood, and the body releases it because it doesn't need it at that moment.
Yeah.
Andrew Norton Weber does a good job of explaining how he got over his allergies with urine therapy, and he did an experiment where he was stung by a bee, and him and his father were both allergic to bees his whole life, and he had an EpiPen, and his friend had like a set of the keys to the car, and they were gonna, if something had happened, they were gonna jump in the car and go straight to the hospital. So he was counting off. He had stung, and he figured this is a great time to do it. So he peed in his hand and like threw it into his mouth and just let it sit under his tongue for like 20 seconds. And they sat there and waited for his head to blow up and like puff up and all that and start getting the allergic reaction. 20 minutes went by, half an hour went by, 45 minutes went by, nothing happened. So he's never had an issue with bee stings for the rest of his life.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
You know, the other story that I've heard, which is really mind-blowing, is that it can regrow limbs.
Yes, and teeth.
Some girl who lost the tip of her finger, and instead of sewing it up like the allopathic way, because you can't regrow it after that. Once it's sewed up, body can't do anything with that. But if you wrap it in like a urine-soaked gauze, it will, being that our urine has not T cells, I want to say stem cells, it can regrow the skin tissue, the bone, and everything.
It is interesting that you say that, because animals do a lot of drinking of their own urine. You know, it is more natural than unnatural to think of it like that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I could indulge in it. I've tried, but I've just not. But I eat clean now.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yes, please. Because I completely respect what you're saying, and I actually do believe in urine therapy. I do agree that it actually is therapeutic. It's healthy for your body.
Cool. Now, what's David's funny story?
Yes.
This one time, the toilet was obviously occupied, and I was desperate to pee, so I decided to pee in an empty Lucozade bottle that I had in my room. The next day, woke up, saw the bottle, thought it was Lucozade, took a swig. Oh, big swig. Straight away I knew it wasn't Lucozade.
And I bet it wasn't even warm anymore.
No.
So you would have grabbed it and you thought, oh, yeah, I can't believe I've got the foresight to leave myself some Lucozade. Brilliant.
I've got another funny story. I was in my place, 3 friends or 4 friends from school are hanging over. We've got a few bottles of beer stuffed in the shed. So we make our departure to take them down. We're about 14 years of age, I think. And so we go to open the bottles. I think there were 2 or 3 bottles that we were drinking. We drank the first one. Some of us went out and took a whiz, came back, and they'd opened up another bottle. So I took 2 or 3 good swigs. And before I could spit any of it out, I'd already swallowed a big mouthful, and it was their urine that I was drinking. And it was really warm as well. Not.
You know, it doesn't taste that bad if you don't eat processed foods or any junk.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't taste. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it tastes like coconut water. Although it tastes like coconut water that's been left out for a week. You know, and that's not that bad.
No.
The viscosity level is like almost like on a creamy level.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. When it's clear, it does taste a little bit thicker. But I've drank whiskey that's made me want to throw up. You know, as soon as it's gone down. I've drank alcohol. It's disgusting.
Same.
Yogurt is fermented food.
Why the morning? Because that isn't the morning urine the most yellowish or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't the morning urine?
It's got to be after like a good night's sleep. I would say after 3 a.m. is what I've heard. There's some rules about it. There's some videos of a guy washing his eyes out with it, puts it into a cup, and like puts kind of like the protective goggle thing you can put at like a tanning salon.
Well, eye wash it. Well, you can get.
Well, eye washers. He uses one of those. I forgot the name of it. It's called a something jar, nitty jar. It's got a name.
Yeah,
it's something you use for like medical application. But you know, I've been brave my whole life. I wasn't chicken about it. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Fuck it. You know, I'm not.
Good luck to you.
What's wrong with it?
Exactly.
In India, they sell cow urine.
A nitty pot. That's what it is.
Well, in India, they sell cow urine for people to ingest.
There's urine in most cosmetics. If you've ever used urea cream is the byproduct, or it has the catalytic.
Well, there's a lot of urine in
horse urine, cow urine,
additive foods. Wow.
Yeah.
There's also, let's not forget, there's also Dr. Brzezinski, who's been making antineoplasms from urine. Let's not forget that. He found that there's a type of a very malignant type of tumor cancer that works on the central nervous system, typically in the brain, and the thing that he's found that helps the brain to recover and basically dissolve and get rid of the tumor, he calls antineoplasms, and these things are found in urine. And this guy is curing cancer he's a legitimate, bona fide, registered doctor practicing oncologist in the US, and he's been in court. Say again, Lindsay.
Make dynamite out of urine as well.
You know, my other thing about I'm against big pharma hardcore, and hearing about urine therapy meant no appointments, no prescriptions. I wasn't playing by their rules. This is like, you know, F you to big pharma. So I'm gonna try and put some urine in it. Exactly. I'm gonna give this a shot, and you'll read online that it's bad for you and that it's toxic, you know, element and all that. And then this is like it's waste product, when the truth of the matter is the waste comes from our sweat glands, comes out of our skin, comes out of our breath.
Well, the reality is the actual weight is.
Hold on, Lindsay, one second. I just wanted to specify to people that aren't familiar with this that when something happens to your body, your brain sort of prints out what you need to do, or prints out the antidote. So if you're poisoned or you're bitten by something or have some type of infliction, your brain registers what has happened to it, and it filters and creates whatever recipe or whatever antidote you need, and then you pee it out at that moment in time. So if something happens, if you're bitten by something, or, you know, everyone's heard of jellyfish, getting stung by a jellyfish to pee on it to remedy that. That's what it is. That's what your body's doing. It's, you know, one of the more inclination to which we call it.
It's the high content
Intelligent
of
design.
ammonia. Yeah, it's the high content of ammonia. But yeah, you're right. That the natural waste is your feces. That's your waste. That's where all the rubbish goes. The urine that you're weeing, unless you've got a virus or unless you've got some sort of condition, or like you say, unless you're eating a lot of toxic food, your urine.
But it's not.
Well, yeah, you have to think of this, guys. Okay, if anybody's been to a really arid region, okay, if urine is getting rid of waste, okay, and you've got this digestive system where your kidneys filter out toxins, this is what we taught, and you know, creates the urine for you to expel the toxins that are liquid dissolved, okay, then how is it that you can be in a country that's really arid and you don't need to pee all day? You don't need to pee. Has your body just decided that it's not going to get rid of these toxins, or somehow diverted them from your urethra into your bloodstream so you can sweat it through your skin? No, it's because your body's reabsorbing it. That's why, because it isn't waste. It's only if it's surplus that it goes to the bladder, and it's only there in case you need it. If you don't need it, then get rid. That's what it's saying. Don't need it. It's okay. You can pass it if you want.
Exactly.
But it's a reserve, is what it is.
Yeah.
If anyone has hair loss issues, the reason why most of the time the situation is underneath your scalp. So your body can't do anything to help your scalp out. So you take a urine, like turban, I guess, a urine turban, and wrap it around your head, put like a shower cap on it, and go to sleep with it for like a month. And people have shown that they can regrow their hair.
Well, you know what I've seen as well, and this was with the MMS. Somebody who was treating a scalp condition. You know, he was bald, but he was treating a scalp condition, and he's showing in the video tiny little hairs that are growing where he hadn't had hair for years. You know, so looks like MMS also works on hair or on the follicles anyway. So that's kind of cool. By the way, I just saw myself in the I was looking in the chat, and there was a little memory of what was shown. Don't I look young? Hello.
You look young with your haircut and everything.
Yeah.
Brightly. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you can use things like MMS. That's just one of many natural remedies that you can use to self-heal, to heal yourself. And there's books made of all 300 different remedies that you can use to get rid of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people have talked about hydrogen peroxide having a similar effect on your skin if you've got lesions and problems, or ingesting it as well, various reasons, because it increases the oxygen in your blood supply, in your blood system.
Sorry, I'm reading chat where everybody's saying, yeah, you do look younger. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, cool. I'm keeping it like this, people. I'm going to start wearing a shirt and tie. I'm going to sit politely. I'm never going to interrupt. No, that's not going to happen. But somebody was asking, what is Crush 9? Crush 9 is Crush number 9. We've had 8. Well, last week we had a few. It's a flat earth crush. I called it this because when people come onto the flat earth, they get obsessed with it. They'll watch as much as they can, as often as they can. They'll try to take in as much as they can, which is exactly what you do when you have a crush. That's what you do. You want to see the object of your crush, as the subject of your crush, the thing over which the person you have a crush on all of the time. You think about them all the time. That's what a crush is. So that's why I called it crush. That's why.
Very good.
Listen, guys, I'm going to wrap up. Maybe 10 minutes if you want to wrap up. Anything, you guys? Lindsay, if you've got anything queued up. Jonathan, Vincent, if you wanted to, what's it you mentioned to me you wanted to discuss? Was it to do with the soul or?
No, lucid dreaming.
Okay. Huh.
I mean, kind of like, I don't know if you guys are into that.
I love lucid dreaming.
I was researching this, and I tried to do some meditation, and I tried to get into a little bit of lucid dreaming, and then I did a little bit more research into it, and I kind of drew my own kind of conclusions because I failed to do any lucid dreaming. But what I was trying to understand why I was trying to look into doing this. What was I trying to achieve? Was it just simply entertainment? Was I trying to understand a deeper level of my consciousness? Was I trying to see if this was achievable just because I've heard about it? What were my motive? And I figured out some deeper level that I wanted to experience or learn to know that this dimension is just energy, and that there's a real dimension that is beyond that, we are unable to tap into at the moment because we're locked into the physical third and fourth density, and our consciousness won't allow us to stretch out far enough to see that or feel it. But having these so-called meditations and practices of, say, lucid dreaming or other activities that you do through conscious meditation, it is attempting to experience a closer connection to that dimension without crossing over into it, kind of thing. It's so you're using your imagination, your pineal gland, to allow yourself to have these visions that you're creating inside your mind, and you're experiencing this appearance of traveling outside of your body. And as I started learning about this, I also started then, in a parallel to that, started to understand what secret occults were, or hidden occults were trying to explain. And part of their so-called process of meditation or rituals and all this sort of stuff is to go into this meditative state that you could refer to as lucid dreaming and call in the jinn, so to speak, powers of these other dimensions, and evoke their behavior. And so by the definition of the occults, they say that when you go into a state of meditation, on the other side of this dimension, it's like a beacon going off. And this beacon is an attraction of not only positive energies, but also not so positive energy. And it's more often than not, the ones that seem to be attracted to these beacons are more or less the malevolent ones.
Yes, but you can shield yourself. So you can shield the beacon.
They cannot cut your cord, but what they can do is they can enter back into you when you go back into yourself. And so when I sort of learned this occult trickery, if you like, the deception, is because if you're not practicing the right form of lucid dreaming meditations, your beacon's going to go off no matter what you do. And you're right, you have controllers or you have methods of control. But if you're not practicing it or doing it properly, you can attract an energy force that can attach themselves to you because you're bringing that entity into this third density.
Let me explain something. Earlier today in this hangout, we showed the guy who was talking about consciousness controlling craft.
Yes.
Yeah. Consciousness, your own consciousness, okay? And controlling the craft, it doesn't mean you have consciousness and the craft does things. It means you use your consciousness to will the craft to do things, because by willing it, you create a communication with the craft, the same as a remote control would create a communication. It's the same thing when you want to shield yourself, when you're meditating, or if you're lucid dreaming. If you're lucid dreaming, you're not going to bother shielding yourself because you know you're already shielded because by virtue of being in a dream. But if you want to shield yourself when you're doing meditation, all you have to do is become conscious that you want to shield yourself. That's what makes you a shield, okay? Yeah. And you will still be a beacon. And if you set your shield, okay, for enlightenment or for knowledge or for understanding or for vision, for whatever it is you want to let your shield allow through, okay? Yeah. So you say to yourself, I want a shield that's going to keep me protected from anything that my consciousness doesn't want.
Yes.
And it's going to let anything that will help my consciousness, okay? Now, some of the things that might help your consciousness might seem unpleasant, but if you need to learn something on the other side of an unpleasant experience, then the only way you're going to learn it is by going through the unpleasant experience. So if something comes in and it's unpleasant, it's only because it's trying to get you to a point that you do want and that you do need. You might not be aware of it, but that's all it is. It's your mind, your consciousness creating the will for you to be protected.
I get that, although there is a difference in my view when you talk about explaining this consciousness video we watched with Ralph Ring, in reference to the difference being is in the video he explains that he's expressing himself from a divine point of view, and from that divine point of few, using that energy, that magnetic energy, that's where he's engaging. In other words, it's less of the mind that's controlling, you know what I mean? It's engaging with that feeling of emotion, and it's an expression, and then it's a will. It's not just a thought. So,
No, but this is what I'm saying. In fact, if you're meditating, you don't want to form thoughts. You want to form, if anything, feelings, but just setting your mind to it before you go into the meditation, just arriving at the conclusion. You want to be safe all of the time. In fact, you can do it right now. You want to be safe all of the time, including when you're meditating. That's it. It's set. Okay.
And I agree.
But going on to true lucid dreaming, Jonathan.
Yeah.
This is what I found with lucid dreaming. And Lindsay, if you still want to experience lucid dreaming, okay, the simplest thing to do for lucid dreaming is this. The next time you're in a dream, okay, doing stuff, just stop. So now you're hearing me say stop in a dream. You think, well, normally I can't just control things in a dream. That's what a lucid dream is. The minute you realize that you can stop and go, oh, what is this? Pink elephant having tea with a snake or whatever. Whatever it is you're dreaming, what is this? You'll then know you're in a dream. What I always do when I lucid dream, I'll have all kinds of dreams where I don't stop and say to myself, what the hell is this? Oh, it's a dream. I'm lucid dreaming. I'm going to fly, which is what I always do. So
I'm not
you have dreams where you don't want to lucid dream.
And I'm not saying I haven't experienced lucid dreaming. I have on many occasions. And I've actually had a brilliant lucid dreaming once. I was walking down the street and all of a sudden I just wanted to rise above the walking and I just started floating and I was above the street and I could see down and there was a garden, there was streets and people walking, there were sets of lights, there were cars driving up and down. I got to the corner of the intersection and I just glided to the right. I went down the next street. And
what position were you in?
I was in a Superman position.
So you were leaning forward?
I was leaning forward. I was in control.
Pick your head up?
My shoulders and my motion was leaning forward and that was taking my body forward. And I could rise and I could lower. And
Did you use your physical body to maneuver yourself?
No.
Like, in other words, did you tell yourself in your head, okay, I want to rise upwards now, or did you just actually do it?
No, I physically changed my body position when I wanted to rise. So when I was walking down the street, step by step, when I decided I just wanted to lift my feet off the ground, because I could do that, all I did was lean forward. And by leaning forward, my feet no longer touched the ground. And then I realized I was hovering, and I realized that I could fall or I could rise. And I had that a couple of days ago, and this has been over the past 2 months. I've had reoccurring flying dreams where the first one, I was in the position of where I was sitting, because I sleep on a couch, but I sleep in like a sitting position. Don't ask, it's a long story. But I had my dog right next to me, and he was like kind of cradled in my arm, putting in that position. And I realized, I knew that I was sleeping, that I said, okay, I can do this because I know that I'm sleeping, that this is a dream. And I was in like a crystal cavern kind of thing, floating forward and backwards. And I still felt him in my arm. The other one I had was I was lying on the ground and on a sidewalk, and the sidewalk reference was from, there's a lot of snow on the ground over here. I don't know if you can see that, probably can't. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
But I was lying on the ground, and all of a sudden I was just floating right along the sidewalk, maybe about an inch above the ground. I didn't feel like any roughness on my chest or anything. And then I just started rising above it. And it was a hill. So I was going downhill, and then I started taking off, just like an airplane. And in the same dream, there was a situation when it switched over, and I was running, and I noticed my feet weren't touching the ground. And I realized, I was like, oh, that's right. This is a dream. That means I could do this. And I wanted to float upwards. So I was above like a tree line, and I had my arms outstretched, but in a stand position. And the reason why I asked you before is because I noticed whenever I picked my head up, I woke up. So I was telling myself.
Yeah, I wasn't physically moving in my dream, in my real body. I wasn't moving. This was all my thinking, my dreaming. Mm-hmm. I was controlling my dreaming, basically.
This is so curious because when I lucid dream, usually what I do, the minute I realize that I'm lucid dreaming, is I fly. I think, right, then I'm flying.
That's the first thing I do.
Yeah. Okay. But my moving is nothing to do with my body. It's all to do with what which direction I want to go, whether I want to go, whether I want, so it's my will. It's my will that guides me. I want to go faster. I want to go higher. I want to stop vertical. I want to land. I want to amaze all the people at the beach, which is what happened in my last one. Just whatever it is that I want to do, that's what I do. My first lucid dream, I didn't realize that I could fly. It was a lucid dream. I realized I was in a dream, and I started to dictate what was going to happen in the dream. And it was really fascinating. I was a teenager. I said to myself, this is a dream. A certain scenario, I said, okay, I'm going to walk around the corner and I'm going to go into the bar. Now, the street that I was at, I knew that in the real world around the corner, there isn't a bar. Okay, but I just said to myself, in this dream, there's a bar around the corner. And in that bar is my ideal woman. Okay, so I go around the corner. There's a bar there. I'm kind of amazed, because it always happens in any lucid dream where the thing that you think is going to happen happens. It's still like, wow, lucid dreaming's cool. There's a mirror. Okay, not a mirror. The whole front of this bar is dark smoked glass, and I can see my silhouette perfectly, but I can't see my reflection, because where my silhouette is, I can see straight into the bar rather than any of my features. I can see everything else reflected, but my silhouette is as if you're like this looking through a window. I go in, the guy knows me, gets me a drink. I go to the back. There's a group of people I know, and they say, hey, she's in the bathroom. She'll be out in a minute. Right, brilliant. She comes out. I had never expected her to look the way she looked. It was just so, and I'm not going to give any details, but it was just so interesting to me that what my ideal woman looked like in the dream. It's like, oh my God, it was really cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had those dreams since I was a kid of like dream woman, and they don't represent like real life people, but there's something about them that's angelic.
And it's not like they look like a famous person, or they look like somebody you loved at school, or it's just it's like they look like they symbolize something.
Yeah, you get that love kind of mushiness when you see them, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I know you as well, because I've had the same dreams.
Yeah,
they're very similar.
The other night, I had one where and this is, sometimes it's a product of what you watch. If you're watching television or a movie, I watch a lot of movies, and I was watching that movie Moana, which is a Disney movie.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Pretty good movie, actually. Really cool CG, like really interesting. Just the island scenes, the mountain scenes, lots of cinematic, edits and cuts and whatever. But I came flying out of like a hole in like the broad face of like a mountain. I just came flying out there, and then I turned around and I yelled out, "This is beautiful." My girlfriend heard me upstairs. She's like, "What are you talking about? Like what?" She was like, "What happened?" And it was just it was like heaven. And I'm wondering, because there are people who they get into the technical side of this, like lucid dreaming could be used to reshape your consciousness and reshape abilities that you have. Because I look at a dream as a memory, because now in my head, it's a memory. I know how to fly. I can't do it in this reality, but in the dream reality, it can be done. And if you concentrate before you fall asleep on, you can even like a mantra, like say it over in your head, like I know how to fly. I can fly. I'm going to fly in this dream. You wake up when you fall asleep, sometimes it'll bleed over into that reality. And I've noticed that I usually wake up around 3 or 4 a.m. and then I go back to sleep. That moment in between sleep, wake, and back to sleep is the best time to convince yourself, or at least tell yourself, that you have these abilities, and to just think about what you've been dreaming, concentrate on what you just saw, and usually you'll fall back into it and remember that you're going to sleep. It's really difficult to like explain or tell someone to do this. It has to come to you in a way. And I've always said, taking mushrooms, you get insane colorful dreams, like what do they call it? Technicolor dreams after, if you ingest or go on a mushroom trip or try anything like that.
I don't have many dreams these days. I don't have a dream that often.
Oh my God, going berserk with it.
But not that often.
I can't take mushrooms. Whenever I take mushrooms, I get an urge. I'm not joking. I get an urge to run up to the police and say, I haven't done anything. And it stresses me, because I think I'm going going to do it, and the police are going to arrest me.
Now I know never to have mushrooms with you.
Yeah, but I'm not. I am literally not joking. I get that urge, and it's because
I had a friend who did the same exact thing. We were at a Ween concert in Rutgers University, and he was like, "Oh my God, dude, I'm freaking out, man! I'm freaking out." There were these two guys on a bicycle who they both had dogs, and they were walking their bicycles and their dog. The two dogs started going at it, like barking at each other and growling. They got tangled up within the bicycle frame, so they're trying to pull apart these dogs that are caught up in the bicycle frames and the gears. He's tripping his balls off. This is happening 5 feet away from him, and he's like, "Oh my God, dude, I'm freaking out! Holy shit!" Wayne's playing in the background. He's like, "Dude, I'm just gonna tell the cops, I took some mushrooms, and they'll take me to a hospital." And I grabbed him. I was like, "No, you're not. You're sitting right there, man."
Hey, you've had what's it called? Salvia.
Yeah, salvia is weird. It's not like a. It's like a whippet.
Yeah, I had a weird experience with this, but because I was looking for mushrooms, or I was actually in the moment, I was looking for something to trip out on, basically, to see what would happen. And this was more of experimenting. It was an attempt to try and see if I could. I watched a video about these medical technicians that went to a particular place, took mushrooms, and they did official tests to see if they could see the other card and identify it and do tests. And the more they did, the more they realized that they could actually guess, if you like, more accurately what the cards were being displayed. And so it confirmed that they had, it increased their sensitivities and their ability. It's salvia. What happened to me when I bought this product, because you can get it in the UK, I'm not sure if you can now, but it used to be quite legal. And I watched a few videos, but I researched about it. And it's, from ancient people take it, and it's done to I think a particular country, the shamans take it, and it gives them visions and so forth. So here I am. I decide to do this on my own. So I pack this pipe and I take a great big wad of it, and I sit down on the edge of my bed, and I'm not expecting to know really what's going to happen. And all of a sudden I'm dissolving. I just feel myself completely dissolving into the bed. And next thing you know, I'm actually part of the fence out the front of where I live. And this fence is now a picket wooden fence, and I'm part of the picket fence. So I'm looking back at the doorway, and standing at the doorway is a female, and she's looking directly at me, and she's basically saying, "I'm sorry, it's your time, and you've been sacrificed, basically, and so this is the end for you." And she goes to close the door, and as she closed the door, all I feel is that this is genuinely going to be the end. And I get to the point where I'm sick. I'm just going into this sort of nothing land, if you like, this sort of void of lostness, and I feel completely alien to reality. And as I start coming back to reality, I realize I'm laying flat on my bed, and all my body is just completely numb. All my fingers and everything, they just don't feel connected to anything. And I feel all of the senses of the outer skin engaging with the atmosphere, and I can sense this interaction with it, and I feel trapped, like as if all this atmosphere is pushing on my body and I can't move. And I panic. I go into this state of, because I'm waking up and I'm going back, and I'm waking up and I'm going back, and I wake up and I get this moment of awareness, and I yell, and this horrific moan just comes out, and I stand up in a real rush, sort of panic. What the fuck was that? What the hell has happened? And I really freaked out, because I had honestly believed that was reality, what I had just experienced. What I had woken up to was just this new reality I'd just woken up into. And I was like, where am I? What the fuck has happened? And I walk out to the kitchen, and I grab the kitchen door, because there's no lights on, it's all dark, and the lights of the fridge as I open the door just light up into my face, and all of a sudden I'm connected to the fridge. My arm is hooked. All the atoms and everything are all merging with the fridge, and I'm going, what the fuck is happening? And I pulled my arm away from the door, and it just peels away. I feel and sense it peeling away from the door, and I'm standing in the kitchen with the door fridge open, because that's all the light I'm getting, and I'm just looking around, just wondering thinking, what just happened? I said, never again. I'll never do that again. That's it. Now, taking about 12 months, maybe 6 months, 12 months later, I've got a few friends of mine at my place, a little party with a card game or whatever. And it's a mixed group, so the wives and the girlfriends are there as well. So we're all celebrating. We're all drunk. And we all decide try a little bit of salvia. And we actually record it as well. Now, one of my friends, he's sitting on the couch, and I convince him to have a go, and he decides to. So we're all witnessing individuals having their own salvia experience. And this particular person, is a really good friend, he takes a good old whiff. I said, hold it in, don't let it out, keep it in. So he really took a lot. And he just started talking to me. But in his mind, he's talking to me. But in reality, he's going, and then he rolls back onto the couch, and his wife sitting right next to him, she's giggling, she's witnessing this. What the hell's happened to him? I said, don't worry, it'll only take about 5 minutes and he'll be okay. So he's lying there, and all of a sudden he goes into these giggles, like he's giggling like this on the couch, and he's drooling out of his mouth. All this saliva is oozing out of his mouth, and he eventually he's like coming to his what it's like this, and he wakes up, and eventually he's coming to. And the moment he gets enough reality back that he knows where he's at, and his wife's consoling him, it's okay. He looks directly at me and he says, Lindsay. I said, yeah, what? And he goes, if you offer me anything like that again, I'll fucking kill you. I'll go, oh, okay, fair enough. And then he described it. He said, I actually died. I was being told I was going to die, and I died. And in reality, when I came to, I didn't know. I thought I'd died. I literally thought I was going to die and people were going to kill me, and they did. And it completely freaked him out.
Yeah, no wonder. But I thought that you were going to say when he got it back enough of reality and he turned to you, I thought you were going to say that he said, you'd better not tell that secret to anyone.
No.
How long did that last for?
It takes
it was like 5 minutes for me.
6 to 10 minutes. But I had another friend of mine, South African, great guy. He was excited about trying it. So he came around again with his wife and with a group of us, and he said, oh, I'll try it. So he took it. He went down, and he had this beautiful, wonderful vision that he was talking about when he came to. And it was such a positive thing for him. He says, oh, I want to do that again. And every time we met, so if I went to his place for a barbecue, I would have to take salvia with me so he could have a hit. And I never took it after that. I took another hit, 2 more hits I've taken. One was in a party and one was with my friend Nino. And I took it at a party at his where he was. But he took it this one in a party on the bed. He's laying down. He's out. And there's the flatmate who owns the place and is his bed. What's he doing? He's just laying there. He's just taken a hit of salvia. What's that? And he didn't like the idea. So he sort of grabbed Nino and shook him. Wake up. Come on. Get out of bed. Get up kind of thing. And I said, no, you just got to leave him there. Let the 6 minutes pass. He'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Time passed. Nino described he had this vision. He was stuck in a Coca-Cola bottle, glass bottle, stuck inside it, and somebody was rolling him down a giant mountain, and he was just rolling down, rolling like on a washing machine. But he described it as a beautiful experience. He enjoyed it. And that was him being rocked by the guy in bed and shaked up and down.
Well, I don't know about you, but if I had an experience that I was trapped inside a Coke bottle, I'd freak out. So maybe his version of a lovely experience is like, oh, I just dreamed that I got stabbed. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Right, listen, guys, I think this is a really good time to hang up because it's been great. There's been lots of smiling going on. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Yeah, I like from what I've heard about DMT that it's probably something like the salvia experience. Yeah. You know, salvia for me was a little weird. Maybe I did it wrong because I'd smoked it and I got kind of, a blistering headache and felt really lightheaded. It was kind of like doing a really long whippet. Like if you've ever done a whippet through like a cracker and then you fill up a balloon and then you hyperventilate the balloon.
Oh, is that nitrous oxide?
Right. Same thing. Right. That kind of sensation. It was just like, cue up some music, something weird, and then just get the wah, 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 wah. sensation. But I still don't really know where to go for the MT situation.
Just go downtown, look for a dude that's selling grass, and ask him, "Can he get you some DMT?"
Well, the other,
really, just go to town and score.
The other stuff, not selling.
I haven't really participated in anything like that in so long.
But you know how it goes, dude. Do you know anything I can score?
Okay, Jonathan, have you heard of iboga?
Yes.
Okay, so the therapy or the ceremony I did, you take it on a Friday night, you take it all day. No, you don't take it. You start on Saturday, you take it throughout Saturday night. So it's about a 12 to 16 hour you're taking it, and you go through these cleansing purges. And the purges are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and they all align your all of those energy points. They all are attempting to rebalance everything. And so if you're having visions when you're in the iboga, it's because it's releasing these energies that you don't need, and you're having these visions of them, so that you become aware of what it is that you've confronted with. So everything that you have when you're on iboga, these visions are for you to be able to address, because you're in that state, that iboga state, that gives you the energy to deal with it. And so all your addictions, for example, are dissipated. And so it's been said, it's one of the reasons why they've banned the stuff in America. The medical industry found substances that could be given to addictive people, and that was stopped. So iboga is a really good treatment for cleansing and purging.
Cool. Right. Well, now it's nowhere near as happy as it was before when I said let's quit. So we're going to quit now. And Debbie's off to bed anyway. Thanks to all the mods.
Good night, all.
Vinny P. Vincent, I'm going to send you a message on Skype. Cheers, mate. Thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to Jonathan Vincent, Leslie, and David. And me. Thanks to me. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, see you guys later.
See you later. Bye.
Oh, hey, Lindsay, I got one question for you.
Oh, yeah.
You send me I've been checking on Max Spears.
Okay.
And I don't know which base's interview it was that you recommended.
Okay,
I shut the page down.
Have we got on Skype? Have we linked on Skype at all?
I don't think so. Because
I'll link you on Skype now, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I'll send the links to you via Skype.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Bye, Antonio.
Right. So thank you very much. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.